Chapter 536. Tai Ta's voice was filled with excitement. Jianchen was his best friend back in Kargath Academy, especially when the two of them hunted magical beasts. That was an unforgettable memory that he would never forget. Jianchen's frail figure was wrapped around by Tai Ta's bear-like body. He immediately felt a great force bind him. Feeling Tai Ta's thick arms, Jianchen was secretly surprised. Compared to a few years ago, Tai Ta's strength had clearly increased by a lot. Even with his body that had been tempered by chaotic force, it was still rather difficult for him to endure. Jianchen gently pushed Tai Ta away with both hands. Looking at the huge man who seemed like a black bear, he was secretly amazed. He sighed in amazement. Tai Ta, you were about the same height as me a few years ago. I never thought you'd actually grow so tall now. Tai Ta calmed down very quickly. He scratched the back of his head and chuckled. I don't know what's going on, but I've grown taller and taller in the past 2 years. Tai Ta seemed to think of something when he said that. A sliver of worry appeared in his eyes. Jianchen happened to notice the worry in Tai Ta's eyes. Jianchen immediately asked in concern, Tai Ta, if you run into any trouble, just tell me. I'll help you deal with it. It's fine, it's fine. Jianchen, this must be your first time coming to my house. Come, let's have a seat in my house. Tai Ta placed his right hand on Jianchen's shoulder affectionately. He held onto Jianchen's shoulder and made his way to the wooden hut nearby. After taking a few steps, Tai Ta suddenly noticed Ming Dong, who he had basically ignored. He chuckled and said in a low, muffled voice, Jianchen, this is your friend, right? Jianchen chuckled and introduced, This is Ming Dong, my best friend. Tai Ta wrapped his other arm around Ming Dong affectionately. He said enthusiastically, Since you're Changyang Shoten's brother, you're my brother as well. Brother Ming Dong, let's have a seat in the house. Hey Z, we have guests. Big guy, these two are your friends, right? Big brother De Zhuang, who are these two big brothers? At this moment, the villagers in the surroundings all gathered over curiously. They all called Tai Ta by different names, all very casually. Tai Ta smiled honestly and greeted the villagers. After bidding farewell to everyone, he led Jianchen and Ming Dong into a wooden hut. The wooden hut was very large and was divided into 6 areas. There was a kitchen for cooking, a living room for eating, and 4 rooms for resting. Tai Ta lived in one room, his parents lived in another, his grandparents lived in another, and Tai Ta's great-grandfather lived in the last room. He was an ordinary old man who had lived for over 150 years. He did not know Saint Force. Tai Ta led Jianchen and Ming Dong to a table and sat down. Afterward, he immediately took out a basin of the most ordinary rice wine and a large piece of cold barbecued meat to entertain the two of them. Changyang Shoten, Ming Dong, our family is not as wealthy as those in the city, so we can only take out these things to entertain you. Tai Ta laughed awkwardly as he looked at the rather shabby rice, wine, and barbecued meat on the table. He was extremely embarrassed. Jianchen and Ming Dong were not picky people. They waved their hands and said a few polite words without minding it at all. Afterward, they began to eat in large mouthfuls. Although the taste was not that great, it was still Tai Ta's good intentions, so the two of them had to try it no matter what. Jianchen placed a piece of barbecued meat in his mouth and looked at Tai Ta. He said in a muffled voice, Tai Ta, I heard you left Kargath Academy 2 years ago and never returned. Did something happen to your family? Tai Ta's expression changed slightly when he heard that. Fear filled his eyes as he stammered, unable to say anything. Jianchen swallowed the last piece of meat and stared at Tai Ta closely. He said sternly, Tai Ta, just tell me what you've encountered. Do you not treat me as a brother? Tai Ta panicked. He waved his hand in a panic and said, No, Changyang Shoten, don't misunderstand. You've always been my best brother. Then just tell me what you've encountered. Perhaps I can help you solve it. Jianchen pursued. He was certain that Tai Ta had encountered some trouble. Tai Ta was one of his most recognized friends. Since he was in trouble now, Jianchen felt like he would not just sit by and watch. Tai Ta, just tell Jianchen what you've encountered. Don't worry, Jianchen is no longer the same person who fooled around at Kargath Academy a few years ago. There really isn't anything in the kingdom of Jessen that Jianchen can't solve, Mingdong said. Mingdong said as well. Just like Jianchen in the past, Mingdong had already accepted Tai Ta as a friend from Tai Ta's honest appearance. This was because honest, and down-to-earth friends were easier to get along with than those who were cunning and scheming. There was no need to constantly worry about being set up by others. Tai Ta hesitated, as if he was struggling to make up his mind. He hesitated for a long time before finally making up his mind. He gritted his teeth and said, Changyang Shot and Mingdong, it's inconvenient to talk here. Let's go up the mountain. All right. Jianchen and Mingdong stood up without any hesitation. The three of them made their way up the mountain with vigorous steps. They walked 10 kilometers into the depths of the mountain before stopping. Tai Ta, what's the matter? Why did you come so far away from home? Mingdong asked curiously. Tai Ta seemed to have a lot on his mind. His brows were furrowed with worry. He looked around carefully and became very cautious. After confirming that there was no one around, Tai Ta let out a sigh of relief. He hesitated for a moment before asking nervously, Changyang Shoten, what color do you think human blood is? Do you even need to ask? Of course it's red. Why are you asking? Jianchen was confused. Are there any other colors apart from red? Tai Ta asked again. Yes, but it only appears in magical beasts, Jianchen answered. Then can blood of other colors appear in humans? Tai Ta suddenly became very nervous. As soon as Tai Ta finished speaking, Mingdong subconsciously answered, Of course not. At least, I've never heard of it before. With that, Mingdong seemed to realize something. He looked at Tai Ta in surprise and asked, Tai Ta, why are you asking us such a strange question? Could it be? Jianchen realized something as well. He looked at Tai Ta in surprise as well. Tai Ta clutched his head in pain. His face was filled with worry. He said, Changyang Shoten, Mingdong, I'll tell you the secret, but please don't tell anyone else. Even my parents don't know about this secret. Jianchen and Mingdong nodded, sternly at the same time. I'm sure you've already guessed it. My blood isn't red. It's a different color that only other demonic beasts have. Plus, with my body, do you think I'm really not human? Iron Tower said with a pained expression. Mingdong and Jianchen looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Tai Ta's words were like a bolt of lightning that struck their heads. They were unable to calm down for quite some time. What was the color of a human's blood? Even a 3-year-old child could answer this question. It was without a doubt red blood. It was impossible to have blood of any other color because other than the blood of magical beasts, no one had ever seen blood of any other color on a human. Impossible. How can human blood be any other color? Tai Ta, are you mistaken? Or are you unable to tell the difference between colors? Mingdong immediately cried out after recovering from his shock. Disbelief was written all over his face. That's impossible. I may be a rough person, but I can still tell the difference between colors. If you don't believe me, you can take a look at my arm, Tai Ta said with some pain. The abnormal color of his blood had always been tormenting him because he was afraid that he was a monster. Without any hesitation, Mingdong immediately picked up a fallen leaf from the ground and slashed it across Tai Ta's arm. However, it only left behind a shallow mark on Tai Ta's thick black arm. It did not even break through the skin. Mingdong was stunned. He cried out with his mouth, Agape! Damn, no way! How is your skin so thick? Although Mingdong had only picked up a leaf, it was imbued with powerful saint force. Its sharpness was even greater than metal weapons, yet it was unable to break through Tai Ta's skin. It was more than enough to demonstrate just how tough Tai Ta's body was. Jianchen was stunned by Tai Ta's tough body as well. Although he knew that Tai Ta's body was extremely tough a few years ago, it was nowhere close to reaching such an exaggerated level. Normally, when I come across wild beasts in the mountains, I'll just stand there and let them bite me. They won't be able to hurt me, Tai Ta said rather complacently. Let me try again. Ming Dong refused to give up. He picked up another leaf and channeled even more powerful saint force into it before slashing it across Tai Ta's arm again. The result this time was slightly better than before, but it only managed to break through the outermost layer of skin on Tai Ta's arm. It was extremely shallow, and not a single drop of blood flowed out. Your skin is just too thick. It's almost as tough as a Class 5 magical beast. I think it'll be very difficult to make you bleed if I don't use a saint weapon. Ming Dong sighed in amazement. Let me do it then. Jian Chen grabbed one of Tai Ta's arms, and an azulite sword chi shot out from the tip of his finger before gently slashing it across. Before the azulite sword chi, Tai Ta's tough body was as fragile as a piece of tofu. A gash appeared without any effort, and immediately a golden liquid flowed out from Tai Ta's arm. Chapter 537. Tai Ta sighed as he watched the blood slowly flow from his arm. Changyang Shoten, do you see that? My blood isn't red at all. What's going on? Jianqin murmured in shock. Tai Ta's blood was actually golden. That was just too strange. Jianqin, look. His blood is actually glowing. Ming Dong exclaimed as he pointed at Tai Ta's arm. His eyes widened. Jianqin immediately took a closer look with that. Sure enough, there was a faint layer of golden light radiating from Tai Ta's golden blood. However, the light was extremely faint. If it were not for the fact that they were in a dark place, they would not have noticed it at all. With that, Jianqin became more and more surprised. Not only was Tai Ta's blood golden, but it also glowed with a golden light. He had never seen or heard of such an unbelievable sight before. Tai Ta, why is your blood like that? Jianqin asked in shock. I don't know either. Tai Ta's face was filled with innocence. He was also very confused as to why his blood was golden. From what I know, only the blood of magical beasts has other colors. Human blood is all red without exception. Tai Ta's blood is actually golden. That's just unbelievable, Ming Dong exclaimed. Jianqin, look at how big I am and how dark my skin is. Do you think I'm not human at all, but a magical beast or some monster? Tai Ta stared at Jianqin nervously. His face was filled with worry and fear. He was extremely afraid that he would end up like that. That shouldn't be the case. Jianqin furrowed his brows tightly. What was happening to Tai Ta was just too strange. After a moment of thought, Jianqin asked, Tai Ta, have you eaten anything special in the past? After a moment of thought, Tai Ta shook his head. No, I've only eaten normal things. It's either wild beast meat or academy food. Then have you eaten any strange fruits or plants? Ming Dong asked. No, I've never eaten them before. Tai Ta shook his head firmly. Then, when did you discover that your blood was golden? Did you feel any discomfort in your body or, anything different from before? Jianqin pressed on. Tai Ta thought about it and said, that day at Kargath Academy, I was accidentally injured by a very powerful magical beast when I went hunting alone. I started bleeding. Only then did I suddenly discover that my blood had become golden. Jianqin muttered after a moment of thought, that's strange. When we were attacked by the wolves at Kargath Academy, I clearly remember that your blood was still red. How did it suddenly become golden? Jianqin furrowed his brows and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. He said, Tai Ta, from the day I left Kargath Academy until you discovered that your blood was golden, did you feel any changes in your body? No, it was very normal. It's just that after I condensed my holy weapon, I felt that my strength was growing every day. Even if I didn't cultivate, it would still grow. It doesn't seem like it will stop. Also, my body seems to be rapidly growing taller. Look, I've already grown this tall. Tai Ta seemed to have thought of something when he said that. He said in surprise, "Oh, right, I remember that when I condensed my holy weapon, my body became extremely hot. Every part of my body was very hot, as if there was a ball of fire burning in my body. Could it be because of this?" Jianqin fell silent. He could not help but recall the purple and azure specks of light that had appeared in his dantian when he condensed his holy weapon. Tai Ta's body also felt hot when he condensed his holy weapon. This was clearly unusual because when ordinary people condense their holy weapon, they would not feel any other symptoms apart from an increase in strength. "It looks like that's probably where the problem lies," Jianqin murmured to himself. "What's the problem?" Tai Ta's eyes lit up. He stared at Jianqin closely. He desperately wanted to know the answer. After a moment of hesitation, Jianqin said, "It's probably because your body suddenly changed when you became a saint. However, that's only my guess because I don't know what caused your blood to change from red to gold." Tai Ta scratched his head in frustration when he still failed to find an answer. He said resentfully, "What's going on? If my body continues to grow like this, will I become a monster in the future?" "Tai Ta, there's no need to worry. Your blood really is very special. From what I know, even if the blood of some magical beasts is very special, they definitely won't have golden blood. Perhaps it's a blessing for you, not a curse," Mingdong comforted him. But Tai Ta clearly still could not accept this reality. "There's no buts. Mingdong is right. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, you can't avoid it. Tai Ta, there's no need to worry because this won't solve the problem. Why don't you accept it and stop wasting time on this matter?" Jianqin said sternly. As he said that, he could not help but think about what had happened to him in the past. Back then, he still did not know about the secret of the sword spirits. The sword spirits had remained in his dantian for a long time, which had troubled him for quite a while. However, in the end, it was not a curse at all. Instead, it was a blessing in disguise, allowing him to benefit greatly. "All right, I won't think about it anymore. Who cares if I become a human or a monster in the future? If I really do become a monster, I'll just find a place where there's no one else and live by myself." Tai Ta finally accepted the matter after being comforted by Jianqin and Mingdong. "That's more like it. Just accept it. Your golden blood might be a symbol of your innate extraordinariness. Don't forget, you were born with great strength." Jianqin chuckled. He took out a piece of cloth from his space ring and wiped away the golden blood on Tai Ta's arm. As the blood was removed, Tai Ta's thick and dark arm was revealed. However, the wound that Jianqin had left on his arm had already vanished. Your wound has actually healed. What powerful regeneration." Jianqin said in surprise. Tai Ta chuckled. "Whenever I'm injured, my body will heal in a very short amount of time. Is that why the golden blood is so wondrous?" Mingdong was surprised. Jianqin waved his hand and said, "Whatever, let's not talk about this anymore. We won't be able to come to a conclusion no matter how much we talk about it. It's just a wild guess. Tai Ta, it's been a few years since we last met. Let me see just what level your strength has reached." Tai Ta gritted his teeth when he heard that. "I haven't slacked off in the past few years. I've been cultivating diligently every day. I'm already an intermediate great Saint Master now. Changyang Shoten, what's your strength like? You defeated me when we first joined the academy. I wonder if you can still defeat me like before." Mingdong had no idea how to react as he looked at Tai Ta. "Tai Ta, aren't you looking down on Jianqin too much? He's even killed quite a few Heaven Saint Masters. He can defeat a great Saint Master with just a flick of his finger." Tai Ta paled in fright when he heard that. "What? He's even killed a few Heaven Saint Masters? That can't be true, right? Whatever, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to fight with you anymore." Tai Ta waved his hands in a hurry. He looked at Jianqin like he was looking at a monster. Jianchen chuckled. Just when he was about to say something, Jianchen beat him to it. Tai-ta, I've heard from Jianchen that you're born with great strength. Why don't you let me see it? The honest Tai-ta was not modest at all. He said in a rather conceited manner, Yep, I really am very strong. Can you handle it? What if I injure you? Mingdong had no idea how to react. If you injure me, I'll just smash my head against a tree and die. No, that won't do. You're Chongyang Shoten's brother, so you're my brother as well. How can I let you smash your head against a tree? Let's not fight. We'll find another opportunity to fight in the future. Tai-ta did not catch the hidden meaning in Mingdong's words at all. He was quite frightened by what Mingdong had said. Mingdong stumbled and almost fell to the ground. He bitterly smiled at Jianchen and said, Jianchen, your brother is just too honest. Jianchen could not help but smile. Tai-ta was indeed rather simple-minded. He did not know how to think deeply about a problem. Tai-ta, don't underestimate Mingdong. He's already at the peak of Earth, Saint Master. He's only a hair's breadth away from Heaven, Saint Master. Even Heaven Saint Masters will struggle to injure him. So feel free to attack him. Jianchen said to Tai-ta, On a way. Mingdong is also so powerful. Why are all of you so powerful? I thought I was already powerful enough, but I never thought you'd be even more powerful than me. Tai-ta's confidence suffered a great setback. Mingdong rolled up his sleeves and smiled. Tai-ta, you can stop worrying now. Come, feel free to attack me. Don't worry if I'm injured by a great Saint Master with my strength as a 6th-cycle Earth Saint Master. I won't be able to continue living on the Tianyuan continent. All right, you're already an Earth Saint Master, so I shouldn't be able to injure you. Prepare yourself, I'm going to fight. Tai-ta became serious. He clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. Then, he threw a punch at Mingdong's chest. There was actually a faint sound of thunder. Mingdong stood there very casually as a faint layer of wind elemental energy revolved around his hand. It then turned into a blur and instantly blocked his chest, perfectly blocking Tai-ta's punch. Bang! A heavy sound rang out when the fist and palm collided. It was like a thunderclap in the sky, causing everyone's hearts to jump involuntarily. Jianchen's expression changed slightly. He stared at Tai-ta in surprise and doubt. He could feel that Tai-ta's punch was very different from the punch of an ordinary person. When Tai-ta's fist collided with Mingdong's hand, the heavy sound seemed to be able to pierce the heart and shatter it. A powerful force came from the point of contact, causing Tai-ta to stagger back a few steps. Mingdong's body shook violently as well. Although he did not retreat, he had sunk deep into the ground. Mingdong immediately became slightly surprised. He sighed, What great strength! You really are born with great strength. Chapter 538. Mingdong smiled in a carefree manner. Come, I'll receive it. Use your full strength. Yeah. Tai-ta bellowed out. He gathered all his strength and threw a punch at Mingdong. The punch from before had already made him understand that the difference in strength between him and Mingdong was still very great. So he used his full strength this time without holding back at all. With Tai-ta's punch, another heavy rumble of thunder rang out. This punch was clearly much more powerful than the previous one. As Tai-ta's fist tore through the air, a faint rumble of thunder rang out. Jianchen became even more surprised. He stared at Tai-ta with shining eyes. Tai-ta's seemingly ordinary punch seemed to contain some sort of mystery. With his strength as a great Saint Master, he was actually able to produce a rumble of thunder. Mingdong seemed to have sensed that Iron Tower's attack wasn't as simple as it seemed. The wind elemental energy on his palm grew denser, and a final layer of dense, pale green light enveloped Mingdong's hand. He blocked in front of Iron Tower with lightning speed, blocking Iron Tower's ferocious punch. Spurt! A heavy sound rang out. It was like thunder, as if it could pierce through people's hearts. It made both Jianchen and Mingdong's hearts thump uncontrollably. This time, Mingdong was no longer able to maintain his unmoving posture. The powerful force caused his body to tremble violently, and he retreated a few steps in a hurry. Each step left a deep footprint in the ground. Taita endured an extremely great force as well. He also uncontrollably retreated over 10 meters before coming to a stop. However, when he saw that Mingdong was unscathed, he could not help but feel admiration. He said in a low, muffled voice, "Brother Mingdong, you really are powerful. I can't do anything to you, even after using all my strength." Mingdong was unable to feel happy no matter what. He gently shook his numb right arm and stared at Taita with a strange expression. He asked sternly, "Taita, you didn't use some sort of battle skill in that punch, did you?" Jianchen also stared at Taita sternly. Taita's 2 punches were far too unusual. Not only did they produce strange sounds when they tore through the air, but when they collided with Mingdong's hand, the thunderous rumble was actually able to affect their hearts. Battle skill? No, I haven't learned any battle skills yet. I just casually threw out those 2 punches with all my strength. Taita laughed foolishly. Taita, did you feel anything special when you threw those punches? Jianchen asked sternly. No, I felt like everything was normal. Changyang Shoten, why do you ask that? Taita was filled with doubt. He was utterly confused by Jianchen's question. Jianchen felt rather disappointed when he saw how confused Taita was. He knew that he would not be able to get anything out of him even if he continued asking. However, he still had many doubts about Taita's attack. He had no idea why Taita's punch would produce such a strange sound, which was actually able to affect his heart. Jianchen, perhaps it's because of the golden blood in Taita's body. Having golden blood is just far too strange. But it also proves that Taita is extraordinary, Mingdong said. Jianchen thought about it and felt that it made sense. He stopped thinking about it and said, "Let's all go back." "All right, we'll all go back, but you have to keep this a secret for me." Taita looked at the 2 of them, pleadingly. "Don't worry, we won't tell anyone," Jianchen said seriously. Afterwards, the 3 of them returned the way they had come. However, when they arrived at the village, there were already over a dozen people in bright clothes there. They were currently arguing with several dozen villagers with weapons in their hands. Taita's eyes immediately burned with rage when he saw the well-dressed people. He cursed angrily. "These bastards have actually come again. Looks like I haven't taught them a lesson enough." With that, Taita immediately ran over. "Hey, Z is back! Hey, Z is back! Big brother de Zhuangzhuang is back. Big brother de Zhuangzhuang, come teach these bad people a lesson. Big guy, you're finally back. These people have come again. Hurry up and chase them away." The villagers immediately felt relieved when they saw Taita return. They knew just how powerful Taita was. As long as Taita was there, these people were no longer a threat to them. The faces of the people in bright clothes changed slightly. They seemed to be afraid of Taita, but soon after, they seemed to have thought of something, and a confident smile appeared on their faces. Tower rushed over and stood in front of the group of villagers. He glared at the dozen or so people who were dressed in bright clothes. "Why are you annoying people here again? Haven't I beat you up enough? Taita, don't be too arrogant. We're from the Shao family. Moreover, our Shao family's eldest young master is already a disciple of the Profound Wind sect. He was personally taken in as a disciple by the Profound Wind sect's sect master. His status is illustrious. You're just a nobody. How can you fight with us? If you dare to be impudent, you'll only bring trouble to the entire village," a young man said loudly with confidence. "Pa, I don't care who you are. So what if you're from the Profound Wind sect?" Taita, I'm not afraid. Anyway, don't even think about taking my sister away. If you don't leave, then I, Taita, will have no choice but to chase you away with my fists." Taita clenched his fists so tightly that the bones in his fists cracked. "Taita, you don't know what's good for you. It's your village's fortune that our Shao family's eldest young master has taken a liking to someone from your village. You don't even cherish it. You should know that there are countless young ladies from prestigious families in the kingdom of Jesson who want to marry our eldest young master. A young man in blue robes said sternly. A young man in luxurious blue robes said sternly. If it weren't for the fact that they had suffered at Tai Ta's hands and knew how powerful Tai Ta was, they wouldn't have wasted their time arguing with Tai Ta. At this moment, Jianqin and Ming Dong walked over. Jianqin glanced at the luxuriously dressed people and asked, Tai Ta, what's going on? Tai Ta said angrily, they're from the Shao family. They saw that our village's sister Qiu Yu was pretty, so they wanted to take her away by force and marry her off to some Shao family's eldest young master. These annoying fellows have already come a few times before, but I've chased them away every time. However, they'll come back after a while. It's so annoying. When the people from the Shao family saw Jianqin and Ming Dong's extraordinary appearances and luxurious clothes, they immediately understood that the two of them had a certain background. However, they didn't take them seriously. Now that the eldest young master of the Shao family had been accepted as a direct disciple of the Profound Wind sect master, his status had risen greatly. In the kingdom of Jesson, there weren't many people that they couldn't afford to offend. Who are you two? This is our Shao family's matter. If you know what's good for you, get the hell out of here. Offending our Shao family is equivalent to offending the Profound Wind sect. The consequences aren't something the two of you can bear. A young man who seemed to be in his 30s pointed at Jianqin and Ming Dong as he called out. He was extremely arrogant and domineering. You're courting death. Jianqin and Ming Dong's expression sank. Ming Dong let out a low roar and a faint green light flashed. He instantly arrived before the young man who spoke and slapped him in the face. Slap. With a crisp slap, the young man was sent flying by Ming Dong's slap. He landed on the ground 3 meters away in a wretched manner. Half of his face was injured and covered in blood. The young man opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of dirty blood and a dozen white teeth. He glared at Ming Dong with a venomous expression. Just as he was about to speak, the opening and closing of his mouth affected the wound on his face. He grimaced in pain and quickly shut his mouth. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to us like that? Ming Dong stared at the young man in disdain. The might of Ming Dong's slap had intimidated everyone present. Whether it was the people from the Shao family or the villagers, they were all so shocked that they didn't dare to say anything. The villagers knew how powerful the Shao family was. Ming Dong had injured a member of the Shao family with a single slap, so they were very worried that the Shao family would take revenge on them. On the other hand, the young men from the Shao family were stunned by Ming Dong's strength. Aye, we're from the Shao family. The first young master of our Shao family is the direct disciple of the master of the Xianfeng sect. Have you thought about the consequences of offending our Shao family? A young man stared at Ming Dong in both shock and fear as he yelled out sternly, What Shao family? I've never heard of it. If you don't want to end up like him, then piss off. Don't ever appear here again. Otherwise, even if I spare you, my brother probably won't spare you, Ming Dong sneered. The young men from the Shao family were furious, but they dared not say anything. They were extremely fearful of Ming Dong injuring one of their companions. They knew that not only was the young man before them more powerful than Tai Ta, but his attacks were also much more vicious than Tai Ta's. He would not show mercy just because they were from the Shao family. Let's go. The young men from the Shao family did not dare to stay for long and left with their injured companion. Looking at their departing figures, an old man muttered worriedly, We've definitely offended them this time. The Shao family is extremely powerful. If they take revenge, we'll be in trouble. Uncle, don't worry. If the Shao family really dares to come, we'll definitely help you deal with it, Jianqin said with a faint smile. A trace of disdain appeared in his eyes. Although he had never heard of the Shao family, he had heard of the Xianfeng sect. It was a sect within the kingdom of Jessen. However, its strength was not even comparable to the Huayan sect. Since the Shao family took pride in having a relationship with the Xianfeng sect, their strength was obvious. Young masters, thank you for helping Qiuyu resolve her troubles. Qiuyu is extremely grateful. At this moment, a gentle female voice rang out from behind them. Chapter 539. Staring at Qiuyu's pretty and innocent face, Mingdong chuckled. So you're Qiuyu. You really are pretty. No wonder the Shao family wants you to marry that young master time and time again. Although Qiuyu was born in a small mountain village, she had a face that would make many young ladies jealous. Although she was still a distance away from being devastatingly beautiful, if she was placed in the outside world, she would still be a rare beauty. Qiuyu blushed slightly when she heard Mingdong's praise. She became slightly shy. Brother Mingdong, don't bully my sister Qiuyu. Otherwise, even if I can't beat you, I won't forgive you. Tai Ta grumbled at Mingdong unhappily. He was very protective of Qiuyu inside. Mingdong looked at Tai Ta with a strange gaze. He laughed evilly. Tai Ta, I only praised Miss Qiuyu a little, and you're already so nervous. Don't tell me you've fallen in love with her. Tai Ta blushed and immediately became embarrassed. He stammered, how could that be? Sister Qiuyu is so pretty. I'm not worthy of her. Mingdong stared at Tai Ta strangely. His expression was extremely exaggerated as he smiled. I never thought that a casual joke of mine would actually hit the nail on the head. Brother Tai Ta, love needs to be spoken aloud. Do you know that if you keep it to yourself, how can you obtain a girl's heart? Tai Ta blushed from Mingdong's words. After stammering for quite a while, he finally said, Brother Mingdong, stop making fun of me. All right, I can't win against you in an argument. Mingdong laughed aloud as he glanced at Qiuyu from time to time. Qiuyu, who was only around 18, had already buried her head in her chest in embarrassment from the conversation between the two of them. Jianchen and Mingdong looked at each other when they saw this. With their insight, they could obviously tell that Qiuyu and Tai Ta seemed to have feelings for each other. However, what made it hard for them to believe was that with Tai Ta's size, there was actually such a beautiful girl who fell in love with him. Big Guy is the most capable, the most promising, and the most powerful person in our village. He can bring back a wild beast every day. It's our family's fortune to have Qiuyu follow Big Guy. We can't afford to eat or wear anything for the rest of our lives. A plain-looking, middle-aged woman said cheerfully. She was Qiuyu's mother. Qiuyu is the most beautiful girl in our village. Many people from other villages have come to ask for her hand in marriage, but none of them are as capable as our village's Big Guy. In my opinion, in our few villages, only the Big Guy has this good fortune, an old man said in a hoarse voice. Over the years, Tai Ta would kill a wild beast in the mountains almost every day and distribute it to the villagers. He was loved and respected by everyone in the village and won the hearts of the villagers. Hearing the praises of the villagers, Tai Ta scratched his head embarrassedly and said with a silly smile, Uncles and aunties, I'm not as good as you say. Seeing everyone talking and laughing about Tai Ta and Qiuyu, a middle-aged woman with a face full of wrinkles couldn't stand it anymore. She said anxiously, Aya, don't talk about these things here. The most important thing right now is to think of a way to deal with the Shao family. This time isn't like the previous times. We've injured their people so badly. The Shao family definitely won't let us go. I think the next time they come, it won't be just a dozen or so people. They'll definitely be very powerful. That's right. Let's not talk about these things here. Let's think of a way to deal with the Shao family. Although Big Guy can fight, he can't win against so many people. Moreover, the next time they come, it's very likely that there'll be people with strong martial arts. A young man with a hoe on his shoulder said in a solemn tone. His expression revealed some worry. Tai Ta was the strongest in the village. Although some of the others were cultivating, the strongest was only a great saint. There were also many ordinary people who couldn't cultivate. If they could fight against the powerful Shao family with such weak strength, it would be impossible. Seeing how worried everyone was, Taita couldn't help but comfort them. Uncles, aunties, don't worry. Taita, will definitely protect the entire village. No matter how many people they send, I can beat them back. Jian-Chen chuckled. Taita, it's not as difficult as you imagine it to be. Fellow villagers, don't worry. Since we were the ones who caused this, we'll naturally help you deal with it. Jian-Chen's words made many villagers' eyes light up. Immediately, a middle-aged man hurriedly said, Sir, is that true? Can you really deal with the matter of the Shao family? The villagers could tell from the clothes of Jian-Chen and Ming-Dong that they were extraordinary people with great backgrounds. As a result, when they heard that Jian-Chen was willing to personally deal with the matter that had troubled them for a long time, they all felt like they were grasping at straws. Although the Shao family's influence wasn't much in the Jesson kingdom, to a small village like this, they were an irresistible force. Jian-Chen nodded with a smile. He was very amiable. Even though they were a group of people who lived at the bottom of society, Jian-Chen treated them all the same. He didn't put on any airs at all. Don't worry, I'll deal with the matter of the Shao family for everyone. I can guarantee that the people of the Shao family won't harass you in the future, Jian-Chen said with complete confidence. As soon as Jian-Chen finished speaking, a loud cheer immediately erupted in the surroundings. Everyone was extremely excited. Although the Shao family had only come to make trouble for Qiuyu and had nothing to do with them, the several dozen people living in the village were all very close to one another. They were extremely united. If one family was in trouble, the entire village would be in trouble. This was why everyone was so anxious about Qiuyu's matter. There's no time to lose. Let's go deal with the matter of the Shao family right now. The sooner we deal with it, the sooner everyone can be at ease. Ming-Dong, Taita, let's go to the Shao family together. Jian-Chen said. Taita's face lit up. He happily said, All right, the two of you are much more powerful than me anyway. With the two of you around, I don't think the people of the Shao family will dare to go too far. Go too far? Ming-Dong smiled in disdain. He said, Look at my brother's status. He's already giving the Shao family a lot of face by going personally. What right does the Shao family have to go too far in front of my brother? They can't even wait to curry favor with him. After making up their minds, Jian-Chen, Ming-Dong, and Ming-Dong did not stay in the village any longer. They immediately left the village and hurried toward the Shao family. The Shao family was a clan that had been established for several decades. They had always resided in a first-class city in the kingdom of Jesson called Yellow Pavilion City. They were one of the 3 great clans in Yellow Pavilion City and were only 100 kilometers away from Taita's village. As soon as Jian-Chen, Ming-Dong, and Ming-Dong entered the mountains, Jian-Chen took Ming-Dong and Taita to fly toward Yellow Pavilion City. Wow, Jian-Chen, you're so impressive. You can actually fly in the sky. Are all Heaven Saint Masters able to fly in the sky? Taita's muffled voice rang out in the air. His voice was filled with the excitement of trying to fly for the first time. Flying was extremely fast. In just a short moment, they had crossed 100 kilometers. Jian-Chen enveloped Ming-Dong and Taita with the wind element and directly flew into Yellow Pavilion City. He then found the location of the Shao family according to the markings on the map and directly descended from the sky. Jian-Chen, Ming-Dong, and Ming-Dong landed in the spacious estate of the Shao family. Because the 3 of them had descended from the sky, this scene was not only noticed by the guards in the estate, but also by many people on the streets outside. Immediately, a commotion broke out, and the news of Heaven Saint Masters arriving in Yellow Pavilion City quickly spread. As soon as Jian-Chen, Ming-Dong, and Ming-Dong landed in the courtyard of the Shao family, a few middle-aged men quickly ran over from the surroundings. They glanced at the 3 of them in surprise and shock before politely bowing. One of them politely said, I am the captain of the guards of the Shao family. Welcome, sirs. Jian-Chen indifferently glanced at the guards and emotionlessly said, Immediately call the patriarch of your Shao family to come see us." "Yes, sirs. I will immediately go and report this. Please head to the main hall to rest." The captain lowered his head and acted like he was groveling. This was the first time he had come in contact with a Heaven Saint Master at such a close distance. He was so frightened that he did not even dare to ask about their identities or intentions. "There's no need. The person I'm looking for should be here soon," Jianchen indifferently replied while looking ahead. A group of people in luxurious clothes hurried over. There were around 20 of them, both young and old. The person at the very front was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s. The group arrived before Jianchen, Mingdong, and Mingdong. They stared at the three of them in surprise and doubt. They had already discovered that a Heaven Saint Master had arrived in the Shao family earlier, which was why they had called for all the important people of the Shao family to come out and receive them. However, they could not help but feel doubt when they saw the appearance of Jianchen, Mingdong, and Mingdong. This was because the three of them were just too young. They did not seem to be Heaven Saint Masters at all. Chapter 540. There's no need to be so courteous, Patriarch Shao. I am Changyang Shodan, and I've come to discuss something with you. Jianchen spoke very indifferently. However, when they heard the name Changyang Shodan, all the important members of the Shao clan trembled. They stared at Jianchen's young and handsome face in shock. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. "May I ask if you are the fourth young master of Changyang Shodan from the Changyang prefecture of Lore City?" The patriarch Shao asked with a trembling voice. They had all heard of the name Changyang Shodan. He was a well-known figure in the kingdom of Jessen. Not only was he a prodigy, having reached Heaven Saint Master in his 20s, but he was also the imperial protector of the kingdom of Jessen. His status was so great that even the king of the kingdom of Jessen paled in comparison. "That's me," Jianchen replied. The expressions of the Shao clan's upper echelons, who held real power, changed drastically. Immediately after, they bowed deeply once again and shouted, "Greetings, Lord Imperial Advisor!" This time, everyone's voices were trembling and excited, mixed with some nervousness. The sudden visit of the imperial protector of the kingdom of Jessen to the Shao clan was indeed a joyous occasion. However, what made them uneasy was that the imperial protector of the kingdom of Jessen had come to the Shao clan for no reason. Was this a blessing or a curse for the Shao clan? "Esteemed imperial protector, please enter the main hall of our Shao clan. Let our Shao clan play host to you," the patriarch Shao said respectfully, but he felt rather uneasy inside. "There's no need for that. Patriarch Shao, I've come to discuss something." "Once it's settled, I will leave," Jianchen said. "May I ask what orders you have, Imperial Protector?" "Our Shao clan will definitely cooperate with you. To be able to serve the Imperial Protector is our Shao clan's honor. Our entire Shao clan will do anything for you," the patriarch Shao said humbly. He did not hide the intention of fawning in his voice. If it was in the past, the strongest clan in the kingdom of Jessen would be the Huayan sect. However, after the invasion of the kingdom of Jessen by the Four Countries, the situation had completely changed. Now, Changyang Prefecture was the strongest clan in the kingdom of Jessen. Even the imperial family and the Huayan sect were no match for the Changyang Prefecture, let alone the 500,000 Qin Empire elites stationed outside of Lore City. Just the Heaven Saint Masters hidden in Changyang Prefecture were enough to match the strength of the kingdom of Jessen at its peak. This was because the matter of several Heaven Saint Masters from Changyang Prefecture defeating 10 experts from the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom was no longer a secret in the kingdom of Jessen. Without any exaggeration, the current Changyang Prefecture was already a powerful clan that surpassed the imperial family. Even the Huayun sect with 3 Heaven Saint Masters could not compare. In Changyang Prefecture, the 4th young master, Changyang Shoten, was an important figure. As a result, when the patriarch of the Shao clan heard that the young man in front of him was the imperial protector of the kingdom of Jessen, the fourth young master of Chanyang Prefecture, he became somewhat fearful. However, he also knew that this was an opportunity for the Shao clan. If they could use this opportunity to climb up the tree that was the Chanyang Prefecture, then the Shao clan's future would be assured. In the kingdom of Jessen, there was nothing to be afraid of. As a result, he hurriedly expressed his goodwill and expressed that the Shao clan was very eager to serve the Chanyang Prefecture. Although Jianqin could tell that the patriarch of the Shao clan was expressing goodwill, he was not moved at all. He calmly said, "Patriarch Shao, recently there were people from your Shao clan who went to my brother's hometown to make things difficult for a woman. I hope that you can properly discipline your subordinates. I hope that there won't be a next time. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." Towards the end, Jianqin's tone became extremely cold. Hearing this, the expressions of the patriarch of the Shao clan and the other members of the upper echelon of the Shao clan all changed. In an instant, their faces became pale as cold sweat dripped down their foreheads. The patriarch of the Shao clan was extremely frightened. He knelt down and said in a frightened voice, "Imperial Protector, please calm down. Please calm down. It was my Shao clan's fault for not disciplining them properly, which almost led to such a huge mistake. I, Xiaoyan, will definitely punish those people severely. I will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. There definitely won't be a next time. I hope you can do as you say. I won't pursue the matter in the past, but there definitely won't be a next time." Jianqin coldly said, "There definitely won't be a next time. There definitely won't be a next time." Xiao Yun hurriedly replied. Her heart was filled with panic. She knew that if the fourth young master of Chanyang Prefecture wanted to make a move against the Shao clan, then even if they climbed up the big tree that was the Profound Wind sect, it would be useless. Even the Huayin sect, which was stronger than the Profound Wind sect, did not dare to offend the Chanyang Prefecture, let alone the Profound Wind sect, which was weaker than the Huayin sect. "Go back and personally apologize to the people in the village." Jianqin indifferently said, Yes, we will definitely do it. We will definitely do it." The patriarch of the Shao clan hurriedly said, not daring to disobey. Seeing that the patriarch of the Shao clan was so cooperative, Jianqin nodded in satisfaction. Then he looked at Taita and asked, "Taita, are you satisfied with this solution?" He satisfied. "Chanyang Shoten, you really do have a lot of face. I didn't think that this matter would be settled so easily." Taita happily laughed. The matter of the Shao clan being settled so perfectly without any effort made him feel very happy. "Since the matter is settled, then we should return." Soon after, Jianqin used his will to control the wind elemental energy to wrap around Mingdong and Taita's bodies as they slowly rose into the air. In a few breaths of time, they disappeared into the horizon. The people of the Shao clan watched as Jianqin's group of 3 left. Only when Jianqin's group vanished from their sight did they all let out a long sigh of relief. Soon after, they stood up straight in fear as beads of sweat covered their foreheads. The patriarch of the Shao clan, Xiao Yun, let out a long sigh of relief before his face suddenly sank. He glared at the dozen or so members of the upper echelon of the Shao clan behind him and yelled out, "Investigate! Investigate immediately! Find out who offended the brother of the fourth young master of Chanyang Prefecture in the shortest amount of time possible. Once you find out, there will be no mercy." "Yes, Patriarch," everyone replied in unison. Their faces all became extremely stern. They knew that they had almost brought great trouble to the Shao clan this time, and it would have been great trouble. Jianqin's group of 3 returned to the mountains very quickly after flying for a short while. Afterward, they landed in the lush mountains and walked towards the village. As soon as they entered the village, Taita excitedly told the villagers that the matter of the Shao clan had been settled. All the villagers were extremely excited. They all cast grateful gazes at Jianqin and Mingdong, thanking the 2 of them profusely for a long time. After comforting the villagers, Jianqin was pulled into the house by Tai Ta, who happily chatted with him. Tai Ta's mother personally cooked a few dishes to entertain Jianqin and Mingdong. Oi, Changyang Shengtian, I remember that you were around the same strength as me when we were in Kargath Academy. How have you become so powerful in just a few years? Do you have some sort of secret that can make you stronger quickly? Teach me quickly. Tai Ta eagerly stared at Jianqin. On the Tianyuan continent, there was not a single person who did not wish to become stronger. Even the honest Tai Ta was no exception. Jianqin's interest was piqued. He chuckled. Of course I do. I just don't know if you're willing to take this path. What secret? Hurry up and tell me. I, Tai Ta, will definitely become as powerful as you. Even the patriarch of the Shao clan has to kneel before you. If I become as powerful as you, then I can let the people in the village live a carefree life for the rest of their lives. Moreover, they will have an endless supply of meat every day. Tai Ta's face was filled with excitement. The secret is very simple. Let me tell you, Mingdong immediately said. Mingdong beat him to it. Tai Ta, if you want to increase your strength quickly, the best way is to go to the outside world to train. With your talent, you'll be burying your potential if you stay in this God-forsaken village. The outside world is not only wonderful, but you can also learn a lot of things. It's much better than staying in this poor village. Tai Ta scratched his head and said in thought, Really? But what you said does make sense. Back when I was in Kargath Academy, I couldn't defeat Changyang Shoten. But Changyang Shoten wasn't much more powerful than me. However, ever since he left Kargath Academy to wander the Tianyuan continent, I never thought that he would become so powerful in just a few years. Is it really possible to increase your strength quickly on the Tianyuan continent? Tai Ta, Mingdong is right. Only by wandering in the outside world can you increase your strength quickly. At the same time, you'll be able to learn many things and experiences that you'll never be able to touch here. I just happen to have a mercenary group under me, and I plan on developing it in the next few days. Right now, I'm in need of manpower. If you're willing, why don't you join our mercenary group? In the future, we'll roam the Tianyuan continent together and do our best to develop this mercenary group and make it the greatest mercenary group on the Tianyuan continent, Jianqin encouraged. Tai Ta's eyes lit up. He said rather happily, Does that mean we can be together every day? Of course. Jianqin smiled. All right, then I, Tai Ta, will follow you from now on. Wherever you go, I will go. Tai Ta agreed excitedly. Jianqin smiled happily after successfully pulling Tai Ta into the Flame Mercenary group. He said, Tai Ta, go bid farewell to the people in the village. We'll leave tomorrow. Come to my home first. I still have a few friends I want to introduce to you. The next morning, Jianqin, Tai Ta, and Tai Ta gathered outside the village. They were about to leave. All the villagers had gathered outside the village. They all looked at Tai Ta reluctantly as they waved goodbye. Brother de Zhuang, you have to come back soon. Chiu Yu stared at Tai Ta with tears in her eyes. She was reluctant to part with him. Tai Ta's expression became complicated as he looked at Chiu Yu. He waved his hand and said, Sister Chiu Yu, I'll be back soon. Once I'm back, I'll have the ability to protect the entire village. I'll also earn a lot of money. I want the entire village to live a happy life. Sister Chiu Yu, if you don't mind me, Tai Ta, being a bore, once I earn enough money, I'll come back and marry you. Tai Ta had to muster up his courage to say the last sentence. After he finished speaking, his face had turned completely red, and there was a hint of red in his dark skin. Chapter 541. Jianqin and the other two left the village and headed straight for Lore City. After 2 hours of unhurried travel, Jianqin and the other two finally returned to Lore City. They then landed in Changyang Prefecture. Greetings, fourth young master. A group of guards hurriedly bowed to Jianqin as they passed by. Their faces were filled with respect and admiration. Jianqin waved his hand and said, Continue your patrol. Yes, The guards answered in unison, and then continued their patrol. Changyang Shoten, is this your home? It's so big. Tai Ta looked around in amazement. Jianqin chuckled. Come, let's go to where I live. I'll introduce you to a few friends. Jianqin led Tai Ta to the palace-like building he lived in. At the same time, he called over a servant and said, Go inform Dugu Feng, Seniorin, and Yunzheng to come here immediately. Jianqin brought Tai Ta into the palace he lived in. However, as soon as he entered, Tai Ta, who had not seen much of the world, was stunned by the layout. He constantly looked around with envy. Changyang Shoten, so this is the room you live in. Your family sure is rich, Tai Ta sighed. Ming Dong could not help but say when he saw how Tai Ta looked like a country bumpkin who had just entered a city for the first time. Big guy, there's no need for you to be envious. Once you have enough strength in the future, you'll be able to enjoy this treatment no matter where you go. Tai Ta's eyes became filled with determination when he heard that. He said with determination, Yes, I'll definitely work hard to increase my strength. At this moment, Dugu Feng, Yunzheng, and Seniorin walked in at the same time. As soon as they entered the room, they heard Senior Anne's gruff voice. Jianqin, you're finally back. When are we leaving? I still like the days of wandering around outside. Staying here all day is boring me to death. Jianqin smiled and said, Everyone take a seat. I'll also introduce a new friend to everyone. Everyone took their seats, and Jianqin introduced Tai Ta to everyone. Everyone exchanged a few pleasantries before gradually quieting down. Jianqin pondered for a moment before announcing, Now that everyone is here, we'll set off tomorrow morning. Everyone go back and prepare. If you need any daily necessities, get them all ready by today. We're leaving tomorrow. Changyang Shoten, where are we going? Tai asked in confusion. The Blue Kingdom. After leaving his room, Jianqin went to see Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian and told them about his departure. Although Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian were very reluctant to let their child leave so soon, they knew that their child had grown up and had many things to do. It was impossible for him to stay at home all the time. Therefore, the two elders didn't say anything more after a brief reminder. After that, Jianqin found Xiaotian and the others and told them that he was leaving. When Xiaotian and the others heard that Jianqin was going to develop his own mercenary group, they understood that Changyang Prefecture didn't need them anymore. They said goodbye and planned to leave the kingdom of Jessen early the next morning and return to the Qin Empire. Jianqin also visited Ken Shao San's parents. Jianqin took good care of these two relatives of Uncle Ken Shao San. However, Jianqin couldn't forget Ken Shao San's matter. He had wanted to restore Ken Shao San's damaged holy weapon more than once to make up for the guilt in his heart. However, he hadn't found a way to do so. The next morning, Jianqin hugged the sleeping white tiger in his arms and gathered with Ming Dong, Tai Ta, Dugu Feng, Yunzheng, and Senior and in the courtyard of Changyang Prefecture. Due to Jianqin's special status in Changyang Prefecture, all the higher-ups of Changyang Prefecture came out to see them off. Several Class 3 magical beast mounts were already prepared outside the gate of Changyang Prefecture. They were quietly waiting at the gate under the guidance of several guards. Xiangtian, your second sister, Mingyue, ran away from home a long time ago. We don't know where she went. Although we've sent out a lot of people to look for her, we haven't found any trace of her. You have to help us keep an eye on her when you're outside. Second Aunt Yufeng Yan looked at Jianqin with a pleading expression. Her daughter had been missing for so long without any news. As her mother, she was very worried. Second Aunt, don't worry. I'll do everything I can to find her. Jianqin said sternly. Changyang Mingyue used to care for him very much. Now that she was missing, Jianqin became rather worried as well. Bai Yuntian held Yu Yu's hand and arrived before Jianqin. She said, Xiang'er, with your strength, you should be able to hold your own outside, so there should be very few people who can harm you. Why don't you take Yu Yu with you? Yu Yu grew up in the Imperial Palace. Aside from a period of time in Kargath Academy, she hasn't had much contact with the outside world. You can take Yu Yu out to relax this time. Hearing that, Jianqin glanced at Yu Yu. He saw that Yu Yu was wearing a set of tight clothes today. She was dressed very casually, giving off the aura of a chivalrous woman. She was currently standing quietly beside by Yuntian with a shy expression on her face. With her appearance, anyone could tell with a single glance that she was prepared for a long journey. Jianqin thought about it for a moment and felt that with their current lineup, they wouldn't encounter too much danger in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Adding on the fact that Yu Yu was already prepared, it wouldn't be good to refuse, so he might as well agree to this proposal. He smiled and said, "All right, since Yu Yu wants to go out and relax, then come with us." Hearing that, a happy smile appeared on Yu Yu's face. Ever since she was young, she really hadn't seen much of the outside world. After Jianqin bid farewell to the people of Changyang Prefecture, the group of 7 mounted their magical beast mounts and slowly walked out of Lore City. After leaving Lore City, Jianqin once again went to the barracks of the Eastern Deity Sword Legion, stationed outside of Lore City. He met with Qin Wuming, Qin Wushuang, and Qin Wushuang, and gave them some instructions before leaving on his 3rd-grade magical beast mount. Qin Wuming, Qin Wushuang, and Qin Wushuang stood outside the barracks and watched Jianqin's group leave. When Jianqin's group disappeared from their sight, Qin Wushuang said, "Father, now that the matter in the kingdom of Jessin has been settled and the Imperial Protector has also left, when do you think we should withdraw the army?" Qin Wuming chuckled when he heard that. He said, "It'll be very, very difficult to withdraw the army. With the speed of the army, it'll probably take at least a year to get to the Qin Empire from here. Although the Great Zhou Empire has space gates, the amount of monster cores used up is just too shocking. Are we just going to keep the army stationed here?" Qin Wujian asked. Qin Wuming nodded, "That's right. When the king decided to send 500,000 soldiers to the kingdom of Jessin, he didn't plan on taking them back because the kingdom of Jessin is just too weak and the Imperial Protector has a special relationship with the kingdom of Jessin. He can't afford to offend either side. The king did this to support the kingdom of Jessin as well as to do something for the Imperial Protector. With the Imperial Protector's talent, he'll definitely become a saint ruler in the future. It'll be impossible to rope in someone like that without investing some resources. So that's how it is. Father, are the 3 of us going to stay here forever?" Qin Wujian asked. Qin Wuming chuckled. "It's not a bad thing even if we stay here forever. Saint rulers are supreme existences, and in their eyes we heaven saint masters are like ants. They won't take us seriously at all. Right now, the Imperial Protector still hasn't become a saint ruler, so this is a rare opportunity for us. If we develop a good relationship with him now, we can ask the Imperial Protector for help when he becomes a saint ruler in the future. And once we have the Imperial Protector's support, those people won't dare to act too recklessly in the army." "I understand. Looks like this is all part of the king's plan. This is indeed an opportunity for us. If the Imperial Protector becomes a saint ruler and is willing to support us, then Father will become the Grand Marshal in the future." Qin Wuming said with a face full of joy. Qin Wuming nodded with a smile. "This is what it means to keep the goodies within the family. Your uncle is a wise king. As long as he can control the power, he must firmly grasp it in his hands. Even if he can't control it, he must use all his strength to rope it in." On the cold and long winding road, the 7-skinned magical beasts were running side by side. They were running at a steady pace, kicking up a layer of dust along the way. "Changyang Shoten, how long will it take for us to reach the Blue Wind Kingdom at this speed?" Running in the middle, Princess Yu Yu looked at Jianqin and asked. Jianqin thought for a moment and said, "At this speed, we should be able to reach the Blue Wind Kingdom in 2 days, but we are not in a hurry." After hesitating for a moment, Jianqin looked at Yu Yu and said, "Yu Yu, from now on, call me Jianqin outside. Don't call me Changyang Shoten." "Okay, This must be the name you used when you left Changyang Prefecture. Princess Yu smiled sweetly. That's right. Jianchen nodded. Taita said, so you changed your name. No wonder I heard from my teacher that the Changyang Prefecture couldn't find you even after sending so many people. But I think the name Jianchen sounds very nice. Changyang Shoten. From now on, I will call you Jianchen. The group of people chatted and laughed as they set off towards the Blue Wind Kingdom. When he thought of the mercenary group he once led, Jianchen's thoughts seemed to have flown to the Blue Wind Kingdom's Wake City. Chapter 542. Just as Jianchen's group left Lore City, thousands of miles away in Yellow Pavilion City, the head of the Xiao family, Xiaoyin, sat on the main seat in the spacious meeting hall. Below him, there were more than a dozen young men kneeling. If Jianchen's group were here, they would definitely recognize them. These young men were the ones who tried to capture Qiuyu in Iron Tower Village. Master, we have found out that these people offended the fourth young master of Changyang Prefecture. A burly middle-aged man cupped his hands and said to the head of the Xiao family. The head of the Xiao family, Xiaoyin, stared at the people below with a gloomy face. His sharp eyes made the young men not dare to look at him. Master, please spare us. Please spare us. We didn't know that person was from Changyang Prefecture. We just saw a beautiful girl in the mountain village and wanted her to enter the Xiao family to serve the first young master. We did all this for the first young master. Master, please spare us. Please spare us. We won't dare to do this again. Patriarch, please give us a chance. Please let us go. The young men also knew that they had made a big mistake, so they all knelt there and begged for mercy. Xiaoyin snorted and said, "Drag them out and break their legs." Yes, the middle-aged man answered, and then immediately asked a few guards to drag the young men out and break their legs. Tie them up and bring gifts. We will go to the mountain village to apologize to the villagers. The head of the Xiao family ordered again. The head of the Xiao family personally went to the countryside to apologize to the villagers. It was enough to show that the head of the Xiao family attached great importance to this matter. The Cross Mountain Range was the largest magic beast mountain range in the Tianyuan continent. It crossed the entire continent and almost divided the Tianyuan continent into two. It occupied an extremely vast area. Countless magical beasts lived in the Cross Mountains. It was a paradise for magical beasts, a place where they gathered. Most of the Class 6 magical beasts on the Tianyuan continent were gathered here. Only a small portion of them lived in the outside world. There was also a legend on the Tianyuan continent. Not only did a large number of Class 6 magic beasts live in the depths of the Cross Mountain Range, there were even many Class 7 magic beasts that had already taken human form. It was a forbidden area for humans. None of the human experts who entered the depths of the Cross Mountain Range could come out alive. As a result, the depths of the Cross Mountain Range had become a forbidden area in the hearts of humans thousands of years ago. Even Heaven Saint Masters did not dare to enter this forbidden area. At this moment, in the depths of the Cross Mountain Range, stood a 3-meter-tall, bare-chested, middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was burly, and his upper body was embroidered with a layer of golden lines under the sun. His bronze muscles bulged high, and he was very well developed. On his lower body he only wore a pair of shorts that only covered his knees, and his feet were bare. The middle-aged man's hands hung by his sides as he stood there hesitantly. The light in his eyes flickered as if he was making up his mind about something. He was standing at the border between the Cross Mountain Range and the outside world. I've already searched the depths of the Cross Mountain Range. There's no presence of the winged tiger at all. Even Rum Guinness' presence has vanished. Looks like Rum Guinness has left the depths of the Cross Mountain Range with the winged tiger long ago. They've gone to human territory. The only way to kill the winged tiger is to enter human territory. The middle-aged man muttered to himself as he frowned. Rum Guinness has already violated the treaty we made with the humans. Do I have to spread the news and let the humans deal with her? The middle-aged man pondered, but soon shook his head and said, No, this matter involves the ancient divine beast, the winged tiger. It's a matter of great importance. We can't let the humans know. Otherwise, if the humans tamed the winged tiger in its infancy, it would be a huge disaster for us magical beasts in the future. It looks like the winged tiger can't stay in human territory for long. We have to kill it as soon as possible. But once I step into human territory... The middle-aged man's voice gradually faded away as a deep fear appeared in his eyes. A moment later, the middle-aged man's eyes flashed. The light emitted from his eyes made the space in front of him tremble. He seemed to have finally made up his mind and said in a low voice, Almost all of the human powerhouses are in seclusion. As long as I hide carefully, they won't find me. The middle-aged man suddenly stepped forward and crossed the border between the Cross Mountain Range and the outside world. Then his body shook slightly and shot forward at an incredible speed, disappearing in the blink of an eye. 2 days later, at the border fortress of the Blue Wind Kingdom, a group of mercenaries escorted a large number of carriages into the fortress. In the crowd, 7 Class 3 magical beasts were riding side by side. They followed the flow of people at a leisurely pace. 6 men and 1 woman sat on the magical beasts. Although some of them wore simple clothes, they had an imposing appearance. With a glance, one could tell that they weren't ordinary people. The surrounding people didn't dare to get too close to them. They all stayed far away from them, afraid that they would accidentally offend these people who were obviously not simple people with a single glance. After 2 days of trekking, Jianshin's group finally arrived at the Blue Wind Kingdom. After entering the territory of the Blue Wind Kingdom, Jianshin's group didn't stop at all. They hurried on their way to Wake City. The Class 3 magical beasts ran on the ground at an extremely fast speed. Along the way, they kicked up clouds of yellow dust. From afar, it looked like an earth dragon. Just like this, after half a day of travel, Jianshin's group finally arrived at Wake City when the moon finally set in the west. At this time, it was already evening and the horizon was covered in a dusky color. In the distance, only a small portion of the fiery red sun was left outside. However, it still emitted a bright red light that illuminated half the sky. At the wide city gates of Wake City, there were very few people going in and out. There were only a dozen tired-looking soldiers guarding the city gates. Jianshin's group slowly approached Wake City on their magical beast mounts. Seeing the damaged walls of Wake City because of the magical beasts, Jianshin's expression became complicated. There was a trace of nostalgia in his eyes. Wake City, although it was a small third-grade city, Jianshin's struggles and hard work had been left behind here. Here, Jianshin had left behind far too many deep memories, fragments of memories of him growing up step by step. Mingdong and the others were also curiously sizing up the somewhat old walls of Wake City. Mingdong suddenly opened his mouth and said, Jianshin, your mercenary group isn't in this city, right? Jianshin nodded and said, They used to be, but it's been a while now. I don't know if they're still in Wake City. As they spoke, Jianshin's group had already entered Wake City. They stopped a passerby and asked, Brother, is the Raging Flame mercenary group still in Wake City? That's a strange question. The Raging Flame mercenary group has always been stationed in Wake City. If they're not in Wake City, where else could they be? The passerby looked at Jianshin with a strange expression. Hearing this, Jianshin's face lit up and he said, That's great. I didn't think that the Raging Flame mercenary group would still be in Wake City. I was worried that they would move elsewhere. Brother, may I know the exact location of the Raging Flame mercenary group? They're in the Kai clan's courtyard in the southwest. The passerby replied, Thank you for telling me. Jianshin cupped his hands towards the passerby. Then he mounted his Class 3 magical beast mount and led the 6 of them towards the Kai clan. At this moment, there was already a large group of tall and sturdy men gathered outside the Kai clan's entrance. Each one of them had a murderous look on their faces. There were about 200 of them. In front of them stood 3 middle-aged men and an old man. The 4 of them stood side by side, blocking the entrance. Through the gaps between the 4 of them, one could vaguely see a large group of people gathered in the Kai family courtyard. Each and every one of them had a serious expression on their faces, and their eyes were cold. One-armed man, your heaven-defying mercenary group is going too far. Although our Raging Flame mercenary group is not as strong as before, we're not so easy to bully. Do you believe that we can make your heaven-defying mercenary group suffer heavy losses before you destroy us? The old man, standing at the entrance, stared at the group of people in front of him with a sharp gaze and said in a deep voice. The middle-aged man, standing at the very front, who only had one right arm, sneered and said, Raging Flame mercenary group, if it was half a year ago, you might have had the ability to contend against our heaven-defying mercenary group. But now, to be honest, I, the one-armed man, don't put you in my eyes. If you don't want to die, then obediently cooperate with us. From now on, you'll join our heaven-defying mercenary group. Our heaven-defying mercenary group will definitely not mistreat you. Humph! The heaven-defying mercenary group wants to swallow our Raging Flame mercenary group with just your heaven-defying mercenary group? You must be dreaming. Our brothers of the Raging Flame mercenary group are not cowards who are afraid of death. The middle-aged man standing at the entrance of the Kai clan's courtyard coldly said, Qing Feng, I, the one-armed man, know that you are not a coward who is afraid of death. You are a true man. I, the one-armed man, respect you, but your Raging Flame mercenary group is not a match for our heaven-defying mercenary group. Why not join our heaven-defying mercenary group and strengthen our heaven-defying mercenary group together? Once we become the #1 mercenary group in the Blue Wind Kingdom, all of you will have contributed greatly. From then on, you will enjoy endless glory and wealth. Why not? It's not worth it to lose your life over something like this. The one-armed man laughed. Humph! If it wasn't for the fact that our Raging Flame mercenary group's leader isn't here, how could we allow your heaven-defying mercenary group to run rampant in Wake City? We would have driven you out long ago. Mo Tian gnashed his teeth and said, Chapter 543. One-armed warriors. Words made the expressions of the 4 people standing in front of the Kai clan's gate change. Immediately, Breeze retorted, One-armed warrior, Xiao is speaking nonsense. How can you understand the strength of our leader? I've only heard rumors about Jianchen's strength. I've never seen his true strength, but there's one thing I'm certain of, which is that he's definitely not an Earth Saint Master. Humph! He's really tired of living if he wants to participate in the mercenary gathering with that strength. It just so happens that quite some time has passed since the mercenary gathering ended. If your Captain Jianchen is still alive, why hasn't he returned yet? The one-armed hero sneered. Seeing how the people of the Kai family remained silent, the one-armed hero continued, I think you all already know the answer, but you've never dared to accept it. Let me announce the answer to everyone right now. Your captain has already died in Mercenary City. He will never return alive. The one-armed hero's words caused the expressions of over 100 members of the Flame mercenaries to change, but they calmed down very soon. The one-armed hero shook his head in some disappointment when he saw this. He originally wanted to use this to lower the morale of the Flame mercenaries and affect their mentality, but he did not succeed in the end. However, how could he possibly understand that the 100 or so blazing Flame mercenaries in the Kai family's courtyard were all led by Qing Feng, Mo Tian, Duo Kong, Chaka, and Seth, as well as the Kai family's patriarch Kyle and the Duo family's boss? In their hearts, these 7 people were the leaders. As long as these 7 people didn't die, their confidence wouldn't fall. One-armed hero, don't waste your time. You still have the final say on whether our captain is dead or alive. In short, our Flame mercenaries will never merge with your heaven-defying mercenaries. If you insist on doing this, then a battle between us will be unavoidable, Kai said with a heavy voice. Although the flame mercenaries were not as strong as before, they were still on the same level as the heaven-defying mercenaries. However, if they were to clash, the end result would only be mutual destruction. The one-armed man's face sank. He gritted his teeth and said, "I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being heartless. Brothers, attack." Following the one-armed man's order, the group of burly men standing behind him took out their own saint weapons. "Brothers, attack!" Not willing to fall behind, Kyle and the others gave the order to attack at the same time. However, just as his voice fell, within the Kai family's courtyard, a dozen people immediately took out a jade bottle from their space belts and fiercely smashed it on the ground. The jade bottle shattered as soon as it hit the ground. Immediately, a faint green smoke drifted out from the broken jade bottle, disappearing into the air in an instant. The actions of the dozen people confused the surrounding members of the Flame Mercenaries. They all stared at the dozen people in surprise, not suspecting anything at all. Noticing the disturbance behind him, Qing Feng turned around and just happened to see the green smoke drifting out from the jade bottle before gradually disappearing into the air. After a moment of surprise, he immediately returned to his senses. His face changed drastically as he cried out, "Be careful of poison! Everyone hold your breaths!" "Ha ha ha, it's too late! It's too late!" The one-armed man's unbridled laughter rang out from outside the Kai family's entrance. "You!" Mo Tian glared at the one-armed man. His face was terrifyingly sunken, and he could not hide the intense killing intent in his eyes at all. He clenched his teeth and said, "One-armed man, I originally thought you were a man. I never thought that you would use such underhanded methods. I, Mo Tian, have misjudged you. Ha 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 ha, it doesn't matter what methods I use. Let me tell you, as long as it's a method that can lead to victory, it's a good method. If you want to survive on the Tianyuan continent, you can't be too rigid, or you won't be able to live for long." The one-armed man laughed aloud. "Consume the antidote. Kill these traitors." Kel immediately turned around and ordered the members of the Flame Mercenaries behind him. There was no need for him to say anything. As soon as they learned that the smoke was poisonous, the members of the Flame Mercenaries all took out antidotes from their spatial belts and consumed them. They then immediately charged toward the traitors who had released the smoke. Every single one of them was filled with anger as intense killing intent filled their eyes. However, just as they took a few steps forward, their faces all changed drastically. They grunted from their throats as they vomited blood at the same time. The poison in their bodies had already flared up. Kyle, Mo Tian, Qing Feng, and Chaka's faces all changed when they saw this. They could not help but cry out, "What potent poison!" The one-armed man smiled complacently. "Of course. This is a combination of poisons that I bought from outside at a high price. It's not a normal poison. There are a total of 2 steps to this combination. The first step is called planting the poison. It's to leave a seed of poison in your body that will slowly grow and take root in your body, growing stronger step by step. At the same time, it won't be discovered by you. After that, I'll use a special method to release all the poison in your body, making it extremely violent once it flares up. The method to release the poison in your body is the smoke from before. Actually, the smoke isn't poisonous at all. It's just a primer to release the poison in your body. There's no need to inhale the smoke because as long as it comes close to your body, it will release the poison that's been buried in your body for a long time. Moreover, the poison will be extremely violent when it flares up. You can only last for 4 hours at most. After that, you'll be dead." At this point, the one-armed man laughed sinisterly and continued, "There's one more thing that I forgot to tell you. The antidote for this combination of poisons can't be bought in the market, so don't waste your efforts. The antidotes you've taken are only ordinary goods and can only remove normal poisons. They can't remove this combination of poisons at all. One-armed man, so you've already planned all of this. A month ago, you ordered these traitors to poison our food, Kyle said with hatred. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. The poison in his body had already flared up, and a line of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. That's right, but you can't blame me for this. Who told your flame mercenaries to not submit to me? If you had submitted to me earlier, none of this would have happened today, the one-armed man chuckled. Afterward, he pulled out a palm-sized jade bottle from his spatial belt and said, You only have 4 hours now. Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who defy me will die. You can choose whether to live or die. There's not much antidote, so it's first come, first served. Once it's all gone, there won't be any left. The flame mercenaries fell silent. The poison in their bodies was indeed extremely potent. At this moment, all of their faces paled as blood constantly flowed from the corner of their mouths. One-armed man, don't even think about using such a despicable method to subdue us. I, Emotion, won't let you off easily, even if I have to risk my life. Emotion yelled out and was about to charge over with his saint weapon. However, just as he moved, he let out a groan and spat out a mouthful of blood. I advise you not to use the saint force in your body. It will only increase the speed of the poison and hasten your deaths, the one-armed man said proudly. The one-armed man said proudly. Then he looked behind him and said loudly, Take advantage of the fact that the poison hasn't completely invaded your heart meridians. If you want to live, quickly come out and surrender to our Defying Heaven mercenary group. Otherwise, when the poison completely invades your heart meridians, even if I have the antidote, I won't be able to save you. Moreover, the antidote is limited. First come, first served. A while later, there were finally a few mercenaries who did not want to die like this. They all staggered out of the courtyard. Seeing these people leave, Kyle and the others could only sigh inside, but they did not blame them. As they walked out of the Kai clan's courtyard, more and more members of the Flame mercenary group chose to submit to the Heaven-defying mercenary group for the sake of survival. In the end, the Flame mercenary group, which originally had more than 100 members, only had 60 or so people left. The one-armed man looked at Kyle and the others and chuckled. Kyle, Qingfeng, Emotion, Charles, what do you think? There's not much antidote left. If the 4 of you are willing to join our heaven-defying mercenaries, the treatment will definitely be quite good. You want the 4 of us to join? You really don't have the ability to do that with your abilities. Emotion looked at the one-armed man in disdain. Charles slowly raised the huge sword in his hand and turned to look at the 60 or so pale-faced brothers behind him. With a heroic spirit, he said, Brothers, I, Charles, am proud of all of you. You are all true men, unyielding men. Brothers, death is not something to be afraid of. Since we are going to die either way, then let us pick up our weapons and defend our dignity. Even if we die, we will die with a bang. Even if we die, we will drag a few people down with us. We will definitely not let the heaven-defying mercenaries off so easily. Qingfeng also raised the long sword in his hand and shouted with a heroic spirit, Brothers, let us fight side by side for the last time. Fight, fight, fight. The dozens of members of the Flame mercenaries in the courtyard let out a thunderous roar in response to Emotion and Qingfeng's words. Although their faces were pale and there were traces of blood at the corner of their mouths, their eyes were extremely resolute. They were filled with a spirit that did not fear death and had already disregarded life and death. Seeing this scene, the one-armed man's face sank. He coldly snorted and said, Since you all want to die, then I will fulfill your wish. Kill, leave no one alive. The group of burly men standing behind the one-armed man were like ferocious beasts as they rushed towards the Kai clan's courtyard with soaring, killing intent. Chapter 544. This sudden turn of events caused the heaven-defying mercenary group and the Raging Flame mercenary group to simultaneously stop the battle that was about to erupt. Then they stared at the entrance of the Kai family in shock. At the place where the explosion had just occurred, there was already a 2-meter deep crater. The floor, which was completely paved with marble, had become tattered. Around the crater, thick cracks had appeared and spread in all directions. Both the flame mercenaries and the heaven-defying mercenaries were stunned when they saw the 2-meter deep crater. Just what kind of strength was needed to cause such damage? However, they were certain that even if a great Saint Master used a battle skill, it would still be impossible to reach such a level. After all, this was a hard marble floor. It was extremely hard, not as soft as the mud in the wilderness. The people of the heaven-defying mercenaries and Kyle's group all looked at the end of the street. Their faces were solemn as they felt uneasy. They all understood that even if the person who could cause such destruction was not an Earth Saint Master, there were definitely great Saint Masters who had grasped a battle skill. Their strength was not on the same level as theirs, so they did not know if they were friend or foe. The sky grew darker and darker. At this moment, night had already shrouded the earth. Under the nervous gazes of the heaven-defying mercenary group and the raging flame mercenary group, a light sound of hoofbeats slowly came from the end of the street. Shortly after, 7 figures riding on magical beast mounts appeared in everyone's line of sight, slowly approaching the Kai family's courtyard with slow steps. Due to the distance, the heaven-defying mercenary group and the raging flame mercenary group were unable to clearly see the appearance of these people in the dark night. Seeing the 7 figures slowly approaching, the representative of the heaven-defying mercenaries, the one-armed man, hesitated for a moment before striding forward. He clasped his hands and said, "I am the captain of the heaven-defying mercenaries, the one-armed man. Greetings to the seniors." The 7 people walking towards them didn't speak a word. They were riding on their magic beasts, slowly walking from the end of the street. A moment later, they approached the gate of the Kai family. At this time, Kyle's group of 4 and the one-armed man's group finally saw the faces of these people. However, both sides were surprised, because among these 7 people, besides the 2 middle-aged men who were walking on the side, the rest of them were all young men. Looks like these people are most likely disciples of some large aristocratic family, and that attack just now must have been launched by the 2 middle-aged men walking at the very side. Even such experts can only act as guards. Just how powerful is the background behind this group of people? The one-armed man secretly guessed, but on the surface, he did not dare to show the slightest bit of negligence. He quickly put on a respectful smile and said, "You young masters must be passing by. My apologies, my apologies. We really shouldn't have blocked your path. We will make way for you." After he finished speaking, the one-armed man quickly ordered the members of the heaven-defying mercenaries to make way. "Young masters, I am the leader of the Against the Heavens mercenary group. Although my strength is not enough to enter the young master's eyes, there is nothing in Wake City that cannot be done. In the future, if there is anything that the young master needs, please do not hesitate to ask. Young masters, now that the path is clear, please." The one-armed man cupped his hands towards them and then warmly gestured for them to follow him. At this moment, the one-armed man's attention was completely focused on Jianshin's group on their magical beast mounts. He simply did not notice the expressions of the 4 people standing outside the Kai family's courtyard. All he saw was that the 4 of them were focused on Jianshin's face. Their faces were filled with excitement and disbelief. Although Jianshin had left Wake City for 2 years, Kyle and the others could still clearly recognize him. The captain who had left them for 2 years to participate in the mercenary conference had finally returned. In this moment of life and death, he was like a savior who had appeared in front of them. At this moment, the flames of hope were once again ignited in their eyes. It was as if they had seen the dawn of victory and not the gloominess of death. Seeing the one-armed man's flattering appearance, Jianshin, who was sitting in the middle, couldn't help but smile. However, it was not a smile, but a cold smile. His gaze slowly swept over the 4 people standing in front of the Kai family's gate. A trace of killing intent gradually appeared in his eyes as he said with a fake smile, You are the one-armed man, right? I will remember you." The one-armed man simply didn't think that the youth in front of him was the captain of the Raging Flame mercenary group, Jianchen. He only thought that this youth was a young master of some family who happened to be passing by. Therefore, he didn't hear the hidden meaning in Jianchen's words. But when he heard Jianchen's words, he was unable to contain his joy. With a face full of joy, he said, "It is my honor to have young master remember my name. Young master, now that the path has been cleared, I won't delay young master's precious time any longer. Young master, this way, please." Jianchen coldly smiled and said, "One-armed man who said I was going to pass by here. This is the place I want to go." Hearing this, the one-armed man was startled. Jianchen's gaze suddenly sharpened as a tremendous killing intent radiated from his body, firmly enveloping the one-armed man. He growled, "One-armed man, do you know who I am?" The one-armed man's face changed. With his strength as a great Saint Master, how could he resist the killing intent of a Heaven Saint Master? He immediately felt like he had fallen into a bottomless pit of ice as his entire body became indescribably cold. The one-armed man turned pale with fright. He had never thought that the young man who should be a young master of an aristocratic family in his eyes would emit such a huge killing intent. He was inexplicably shocked and panicked. He didn't know how he had offended this powerful young master of an aristocratic family in front of him. "Young master, could it be that one-armed warrior has offended you in some way? Please tell me," the one-armed man asked with a trembling voice. Although he did not know Jianchen's strength, just the killing intent that Jianchen radiated was enough to make him feel fear. Jianchen looked down at the one-armed man from atop his magical beast and sneered, "One-armed man, listen up. I'm the person you just said died in Mercenary City, the captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianchen." The one-armed man's eyes immediately narrowed to the size of a needle when he heard that. His face suddenly changed drastically as he stared at Jianchen in disbelief. Deep shock filled his eyes. "What? Why? You're actually Jianchen." The one-armed man was utterly shocked as his voice trembled. The 4 people standing at the entrance of the Kai family all cried out uncontrollably when they heard Jianchen's words. They were extremely emotional. The captain has returned. The captain of the Flame Mercenaries has returned. The captain has returned. The captain has returned from the mercenary gathering. Kyle and the other 3 all let out excited cries. The several dozen members of the Flame Mercenaries gathered in the Kai family's courtyard all revealed excited smiles. At this moment, they who were in the midst of death seemed to have grasped onto a life-saving vine in the dark abyss and saw the dawn of victory. Jianchen did not have the time to catch up with them when he saw their pale faces. He glared at the one-armed man and sneered, "One-armed man, you're quite bold to actually attack my Flame Mercenaries." The one-armed man's face alternated between green and white. He looked at Jianchen's young and handsome face in both shock and fear. When he thought of the tremendous presence that Jianchen had just erupted with, he felt a chill run down his spine. "You're actually the captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianchen? Didn't you go to the mercenary gathering? How did you come out alive?" the one-armed man asked with a trembling voice. Jianchen sneered, "Cut the crap and hand over the antidote immediately." A gleam of light flashed through the one-armed man's eyes when he heard that. He immediately thought of a plan to escape. He pulled out a white jade bottle from his spatial belt and gripped it tightly in his hand before rapidly retreating. He immediately pulled away from Jianchen and stood 20 meters away, staring at Jianchen in fear. He said, "Jianchen, there's only one portion of the antidote. Do you believe that I won't smash it right now and make it so that you'll never be able to obtain the antidote for this combination of poisons?" Jianchen stared at the one-armed man in disdain and sneered, "Do you still want to negotiate with me?" The one-armed man glanced at Jianchen, Yunzhang, and Senior, and in fear. After witnessing their strength, his fear for them had reached a peak. However, in order to escape unscathed, he had no other choice. He had already poisoned the people of the Flame Mercenaries, so he knew that Jianqin would never let him go. Jianqin, you can obtain the antidote, but you have to swear that you'll let all of us leave safely, the one-armed man yelled out. Before Jianqin could reply, he waved his hand at the people of the heaven-defying mercenaries. Brothers, retreat! The people of the heaven-defying mercenaries could tell that they were at a disadvantage, so they did not hesitate at all. They quickly put away their weapons and fled into the distance. You want to leave? Not so easy. Jianqin's face turned cold. He said with a heavy voice, Mingdong, Dugafeng, Yunzhang, Seniorin, stop them. Kill everyone who tries to escape. Ha, all right. Mingdong laughed and immediately flew up from his mount. His body turned into a faint cyan light in midair and disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, he crossed the distance of 100 meters and blocked the path of the heaven-defying mercenary group. Dugufeng, Yunzhang, and Seniorin all understood what role they were playing, so they did not resist Jianqin's orders at all. The three of them flew into the air at the same time and followed closely behind Mingdong, blocking the path of the heaven-defying mercenaries. Duguxia's face changed. He glared at the jade bottle in Jianqin's hand and yelled out, Jianqin, this is the only antidote for my combination of poisons. Do you want everyone in the Flame Mercenaries to die from the poison? You have no right to threaten me, nor do you have the right to negotiate with me, Jianqin said indifferently. With a thought, the energy in the surroundings began to wildly surge. It gathered around the one-armed man, locking him in place. Afterward, Jianqin opened his hand slightly, and the antidote in the man's hand automatically flew into Jianqin's hand. The one-armed man was only a great Saint Master. He had never seen the abilities of a Heaven Saint Master before, so he was quite frightened by Jianqin's miraculous abilities. His face was filled with fear. On the other side, the people of the heaven-defying mercenaries who had been stopped by Mingdong and the others were stunned for a while before erupting with a yell. There's only a few of them. Let's go together and charge out. Yeah, there's only 4 of them. There's so many of us. Let's go together and cut them down. The people of the heaven-defying mercenaries all drew their saint weapons and charged toward Mingdong's group. Chapter 545. As he spoke, a huge, fiery red sword had already appeared in Dugafeng's hand. With a slight tremble of his arm, a fierce flame surged out. The scarlet-red flames began to roar on the huge sword. The bright red flames constantly flickered, illuminating the area and dispersing quite a bit of the darkness in the surroundings. How is this possible? Those are actually tangible flames. Heavens, he's actually an Earth Saint Master. Everyone retreat. He's an Earth Saint Master. Seeing this scene, some of the experienced members of the heaven-defying mercenary group turned pale with fright. The morale they had just accumulated disappeared without a trace. They didn't have the slightest bit of courage to fight again, and they all retreated with frightened faces. A sharp light flashed through Dugafeng's eyes. He suddenly swung the huge sword in his hand, and the flames on the sword dyed the sky red. A fiery red ripple shot out from the tip of the sword, striking the street with lightning-like speed. Boom! Dust immediately rose up from the street. The tough marble was as fragile as tofu, easily creating a foot-wide crack that stretched across the entire street. Saint force surged into the ground, causing the entire street to tremble slightly. The members of the heaven-defying mercenary band all paled in fright when they sensed the might of Dugufeng's casual strike. At that moment, all of them could not help but think that an Earth Saint Master was just too powerful. Dugufeng slowly pulled back his sword. He looked at the members of the defiant mercenaries emotionlessly and coldly said, "Whoever crosses this line will be killed without mercy." The heaven-defying mercenary group's members were all huddled together, trembling with fear. The crack that crossed the entire street happened to be right in front of them. Everyone looked at this crack that seemed to represent death with pale faces and no one dared to take a single step forward. On the other side, the one-armed man also stared at the red-robed Dugafeng in shock. His eyes were stunned. He found it very difficult to believe what had just happened. The captain of the Flame Mercenaries was actually able to command an Earth Saint Master. In the tiny lore city, Great Saint Masters could already be considered as peak experts. Even if the entire city was added together, there would not be more than 20 of them. As for Earth Saint Masters, they basically would not set foot in a small place like this. However, once they did, they would become peak experts without a doubt. Across the entire city, no one would be able to defeat them. Now that the Raging Flame Mercenaries had an Earth Saint Master in their ranks, who would dare oppose them in Wake City? The members of the Flame Mercenaries were also stunned by Dugafeng's strength. But soon after, joy appeared on their faces. They were so excited that their bodies began to tremble. An Earth Saint Master actually listened to their captain's orders. Didn't this mean that he was on their side? After Jianchen took the antidote from the one-armed man, he threw it into Kyle's hands and said, "Quickly take the antidote and detoxify the poison." "Yes, Captain," Kyle and the others excitedly replied. They then opened the jade bottle and dripped a few drops of liquid into their mouths before passing the bottles down one by one. There was an extremely large amount of antidote in the jade bottle, enough to detoxify everyone. Moreover, there was more than half of it left. It was not limited like the one-armed man had said. After taking the antidote, the complexions of the members of the Flame Mercenaries rapidly improved. The poison in their bodies was quickly expelled and their lives were no longer in danger. Jianchen jumped off his Class 3 magical beast mount and strode over to Kyle and the others. He said, "Looks like I really came at the right time. I just happened to save your lives. Many things must have happened in the past 2 years. Why don't I see Duo Kong, Seth, and Vaz? Where did they go?" A trace of sorrow appeared on Kyle and the others' faces. He said, "Captain, we were useless. You left us such a powerful mercenary group, but only a few dozen people remain. Duo Kong, Seth, and Vaz also met with an accident a year ago and left us forever. Only the 4 of us remain from the 7 of us." Hearing that, Jianchen let out a long sigh and sighed. He felt a bit of pain. These 7 people were the strongest people he had subdued and were also the pillars of the Flame Mercenaries. Jianchen was extremely concerned about these 7 people. Suddenly, the sound of something tearing through the air rang out from behind. The one-armed man who had regained his freedom suddenly leapt up from the ground while Jianchen was catching up with the members of the Flame Mercenaries. He flipped over the houses on the other side of the street in an attempt to escape. Jianchen's gaze turned cold. Without even looking back, he extended a finger behind him. An azure violet sword chi shot out from the tip of his finger and tore through the air with unbelievable speed, directly striking the man's right arm. Arg! The man cried out miserably. His only remaining arm had been severed from his body, falling from the sky. Blood spurted out like a fountain from where the arm had been severed, as if it was raining blood. The man's body fell from the sky and landed on the ground in a horrible shape. He howled in pain. He only had one arm in the first place, which was why he was called the one-armed man. Now that he had lost his remaining arm, he was basically a cripple. The expression of the members of the heaven-defying mercenaries changed when they saw the one-armed man become crippled. Their gazes toward Jianchen were filled with fear. The one-armed man was the strongest person in the heaven-defying mercenaries. His fall was obviously a huge blow to the mercenaries. Kyle and the others were shocked by Jianchen's strength once again when they saw how easily Jianchen had crippled the one-armed man's arm. However, their shock was soon replaced by joy. Jianchen was the captain of the Flame Mercenaries. It would be difficult for them not to soar in the future if they followed such a powerful captain. Captain strength is unparalleled. You've truly broadened our horizons. Emotion couldn't help but exclaim. His voice was filled with excitement, and his eyes were brimming with tears. After witnessing Genshin's strength with his own eyes once again, it was as if he could see the glorious future of the Flame Mercenaries. Under the leadership of such a powerful captain, it would be difficult for the Flame Mercenaries to not grow. Genshin smiled. He looked at Kyle and the others, as well as the 60 or so remaining members of the Flame Mercenaries. He praised, "All of you have done well. You are the pride of the Flame Mercenaries. In the future, I, Genshin, will spare no effort to nurture all of you." After going through a trial of life and death, the remaining members of the Flame Mercenaries were undoubtedly the most trustworthy people Genshin could trust. They were worth Genshin's efforts to nurture. At this moment, Genshin had already decided that he would spare no effort to nurture these people. Genshin's words made Kyle and the others rejoice. They all expressed their gratitude. "Thank you, Captain, for your nurturing." Now, the people who had chosen to leave the Flame Mercenaries for survival all revealed expressions of regret. They glanced at the members of the heaven-defying mercenaries who were stuck here, unable to leave. Afterwards, they looked at the Flame Mercenaries whose reputation had soared because of their captain's sudden return. Shame appeared on the faces of the people who had chosen to leave earlier. Previously, they had chosen to leave the Flame Mercenaries in order to survive and were forced to join the heaven-defying mercenaries. They had originally thought that their lives were safe, but who would have thought that the situation would suddenly take such a huge turn? The heaven-defying mercenaries who had originally held the upper hand had now fallen into such a dangerous situation with the sudden return of their captain. Whether they could leave safely today was up to the Flame Mercenaries. This caused the people who had chosen to betray the Flame Mercenaries to fall into an extremely awkward situation. They were filled with shame, not even daring to look at the brothers who had once fought alongside them in the Flame Mercenaries. Genshin calmly glanced at the people of the heaven-defying mercenaries, causing the people who had chosen to leave to lower their heads in shame, not daring to meet his gaze. "It's better for you to deal with the people of the heaven-defying mercenaries. It's up to you whether you want to kill them or keep them," Genshin said indifferently. He did not even glance at the people who had left. The one-armed hero and the experts in the heaven-defying mercenary group must be eliminated. Their hands are stained with the blood of our brothers. We must take revenge for our dead brothers. Emotion gritted his teeth and spoke while his eyes were burning with raging flames of fury. The expressions of the great Saint Masters of the heaven-defying mercenaries all changed when they heard that. They looked at each other before rising into the air at the same time, fleeing in different directions. They had indeed killed quite a few people from the Flame Mercenaries, so they knew that they would not be able to escape death if they stayed. Since that was the case, they might as well take a gamble. Perhaps they would still have a chance of escaping. Mingdong sneered and sneered. "If we let you escape right under our noses, we won't be able to explain ourselves to our brothers." While speaking, Mingdong and Dugofeng each sent out several powerful sword chis, cutting the bodies of several Saint Masters who were trying to escape in half. A rain of blood poured down, dyeing the sky red. Seeing how the strongest person in their mercenaries had been killed in a single blow, the other members of the heaven-defying mercenaries could not help but become even paler. They stared at Mingdong and Dugofeng in fear. "Captain Genshin, spare us! Captain Genshin, spare us! We're willing to leave the heaven-defying mercenaries and join your Flame Mercenaries. We're willing to do anything for you. Please, Captain Genshin, spare us. We still have wives and children to take care of." "Captain Genshin, spare us!" The heaven-defying mercenaries knew that the situation was hopeless. A few of them who were unwilling to die all knelt on the ground and kowtowed as they begged for mercy. Qingfeng took a step forward and said, "Our Flame Mercenaries can't kill everyone, but we can't let you go for nothing. Hand over your spatial belts, and you can leave." "I'll hand them over. I'll hand them over." Qingfeng's words were like a blessing to the heaven-defying mercenaries. Everyone felt as if they had been granted amnesty. Without the slightest hesitation, They nimbly removed their space belts and obediently handed them over. The appearance of two Earth Saint Masters was just too much pressure for them to bear. At this moment, one of the members who had chosen to leave the Flame mercenaries arrived before Qingfeng. He said, "Captain, can you let me return to the Flame mercenaries? You know that I have a family. I'm not as carefree as my brothers. I can't just die like this. I had no choice but to do what I did before." Qingfeng said nothing. He turned his head toward Jianchen. Jianchen pondered for a while before waving his hand. He said, "All of you can leave. Seeing that you've been in the Flame mercenaries before, I can let you keep your belongings. There's no need to hand them over." The members of the heaven-defying mercenary group all handed over their spatial pouches and safely left this place. The Flame mercenary group didn't kill them to the last one, but they tied up the dozen traitors who had poisoned them. Chapter 546. The people who had poisoned the Flame mercenaries had long since been bribed by the heaven-defying mercenaries. Kyle and the others were merciless in dealing with these people. They immediately cut off their heads and had them thrown into the wilderness outside of Wake City. After the matter was settled, Mingdong and the others walked in from outside and gathered in the Kai clan's main hall. Within the Kai clan's main hall, Jianchen sat high up on a throne that symbolized the patriarch. Below him sat Mingdong's group of 6, as well as Kyle's group of 4, the leaders of the Flame mercenaries. "Kyle, Qingfeng and Mo Tian, Charles, what happened in the years that I was gone? How did the Flame mercenaries end up in such a miserable state?" Jianchen's gaze fell on the 4 of them as he asked in a deep voice, "Captain, we were useless. Not only did we fail to strengthen the Flame mercenaries, we ended up in such a miserable state. If it weren't for Captain's sudden arrival today, I'm afraid that our Flame mercenaries would no longer exist." Kyle said with a face full of shame, "Tell me the details so that I can understand what happened." Jianchen said. The 4 of them muttered to each other for a while before Kyle said, "Captain, let me explain. After you left, we did our best to develop the strength of the Raging Flame mercenary group according to the mission you gave us. With the strength of the Raging Flame mercenary group back then, we were invincible in Wake City, so the first step of our plan was to reorganize Wake City and recover all the factions in Wake City. When we first started this plan, it went very smoothly. Without expending much effort, we were able to subdue a few small families and small mercenary groups, raising the strength of our Raging Flame mercenary group to another level. However, there were many factions in Wake City that weren't willing to submit to our Raging Flame mercenary group, so they formed an alliance to resist our Raging Flame mercenary group. This alliance brought together more than 10 families and mercenary groups from Wake City, and their combined strength wasn't any weaker than our Raging Flame mercenary group. During this time, our Raging Flame mercenary group secretly fought with them a few times, and both sides suffered losses. But half a year later, we discovered a Class 5 magical beast cub in the magical Beast Mountain Range, and after the news spread, the Alliance's people were drawn over. At that time, our Raging Flame mercenary group and the Alliance's people finally broke out in a large-scale battle over the Class 5 magical beast cub, causing both sides to suffer heavy losses. Although we were able to wipe out the Alliance's people and emerge victorious, Vaz and Seth also died in battle. When he heard about the infant of a Class 5 magical beast, Jinchen's eyes flashed. He asked, "Was that the infant of a Class 5 magical beast the infant of a golden fur tiger king?" "That's right. That infant of a Class 5 magical beast was the golden fur tiger king. Because it was too young, it didn't have any offensive capabilities. In the end, our Flame mercenaries obtained it, but unfortunately..." Kyle let out a long sigh. His face was filled with pain. "Unfortunately what?" Jianchen's eyes flashed as he stared at Kyle. There was an unforgettable hatred between the infant of a Class 5 magical beast and the Flame mercenaries. Back then, it was because of this infant that the first captain of the Flame mercenaries Uncle Kendall, had died. At the same time, it was because of this infant that everyone in the Flame Mercenaries, except for himself, had died in the magical Beast Mountain Range. Sigh. It's all our fault for being too careless. The infant of the Golden Fur Tiger King was actually stolen by a mysterious person in the middle of the night. Duo Kong gave chase, but was killed in the middle of the street. From the destruction of the surroundings, we can already confirm that the mysterious person who stole the infant had already mastered a battle skill. Breeze sighed. His face was filled with regret. It's all our fault for being too careless. Emotion's face was also filled with regret. His expression was filled with unconcealable sorrow, as if he was grieving over Duo Kang's death. Jianchen's expression became somewhat gloomy. He said, "Then did you find out who the person who stole the infant was?" "No, there wasn't the slightest bit of news. That mysterious person didn't leave behind any clues, so there was no way to find out. Furthermore, the infant of the Golden Fur Tiger King has never appeared in Wake City." Charles shook his head. Jianchen's brows slightly furrowed as he lowered his head in contemplation. Kyle continued, "After this incident, our Raging Flame mercenary group and the Alliance's strength were greatly reduced. Both sides were in a stalemate. However, what we didn't expect was that there was actually internal strife within the Alliance, and internal strife actually broke out. This caused the Alliance that had always been opposing us to crumble, and once again become a pile of loose sand. We originally wanted to use this opportunity to subdue those people in one go, but what we didn't expect was that there was actually someone who was one step ahead of us and used a thunderous method to subdue all of them. Moreover, they called themselves the Heaven-Defying Mercenary Group. A few days later, the leader of the Heaven-Defying Mercenary Group, One-Armed Hero, actually took the initiative to come to us and ask us to join his group. After we refused, the Heaven-Defying Mercenary Group has always been opposing our Raging Flame Mercenary Group. Furthermore, One-Armed Hero seems to have an unusual relationship with the City Lord's Mansion. He has received special treatment from the City Lord's Mansion in many aspects, so his influence has developed very quickly. Our people often have small conflicts with the Heaven-Defying Mercenary Group, and in the end, this scene today occurred." After hearing that, Jianchen muttered to himself for a while before saying, "I never thought that so many things would have happened in the past 2 years. It's much more complicated than I imagined. It looks like I can't blame you." Qingfeng hesitated for a moment before saying, "Leader, there's something else I want to report." "Speak." Jianchen said, "Leader, ever since Vaz died in battle, his son has been in charge of the Doll family, and they have already left our Raging Flame mercenary group. Since you've returned, should we let the Vaz family rejoin us?" Qingfeng asked. Jianchen pondered for a moment before saying, "No matter what, Vaz died in battle for our Raging Flame mercenary group. He's a meritorious member of our mercenary group. I'll personally pay a visit to the Vaz family tomorrow. It's late now, so all of you should go and rest. Now that I've returned, the Raging Flame mercenary group's growth is unstoppable. Early tomorrow morning, I have something important to announce to everyone." Afterward, the 4 of them left together. Only Jianchen's group of 7 remained in the discussion hall after they left. "Jianchen, so this is your mercenary group. You only have 4 great Saint Masters, so your strength really isn't that great. However, that's no longer important. With our abilities, we can at least develop the Raging Flame mercenary group into the number 1 mercenary group in the Blue Wind Kingdom in an extremely short amount of time," Jianchen said seriously. "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm planning to do. I wonder if anyone has any good plans for this matter," Jianchen said. "It's simple. We'll recruit people. All we need to do is report how many Earth Saint Masters we have. I'm sure many mercenaries will be willing to join us," Mingdong suggested. "That's not a bad idea, but we can't avoid people with ulterior motives if we do that. Perhaps today's incident will repeat itself in the near future. In my opinion, quality matters, not quantity." A group of 100 elites is enough to rival a mob of 1,000, said Dugufeng. Yeah, that's right. Dugufeng's words make sense. Why don't we spend some effort to raise a group of true elites? Ming Dong suggested. Raising a group of elites is a must. I already have suitable members in mind for this group. The current members of the Raging Flame mercenary group are all suitable, but that's nowhere near enough. My goal is to develop the Raging Flame mercenary group into the #1 mercenary group on the Tianyuan continent. This will take an extremely long time, so it can't be done slowly. As a result, we need to start off quickly, Jianqin said. I have a pretty good idea. Perhaps everyone can consider it. Yu, who had remained silent the entire time, suddenly said, Jianqin, if you want to develop the Raging Flame mercenary group quickly, there's only one path for you to take right now, and that's to head to the large cities and use force to forcefully subdue the mercenary groups that are not weak. With your current strength, you won't encounter too many obstacles as long as you don't come across a mercenary group with a Heaven Saint Master. If we do that, even if they submit to us on the surface, who knows what they'll secretly do to us? What just happened is a lesson, said Grand, and we don't need to consider this at all. Before absolute strength, all schemes are useless. Moreover, as long as they have some brains, they won't do something like that after witnessing the strength of our group, because if they follow us, their accomplishments might far exceed what they are now, reaching a new peak. And if they stay with the mercenary group for too long, it'll be unavoidable for them to develop a sense of reliance on the mercenary group. It'll be like a citizen facing their own country. They'll gradually love and protect their home. Yu continued. Moreover, Jianqin is a peak Heaven Saint Master. I'm sure everyone knows what kind of status an expert like that possesses in a kingdom. Having a Heaven Saint Master supporting them is a treatment that many mercenaries dream of, because if they have a Heaven Saint Master supporting them, their status will rise by a lot even if they're not powerful. They won't have to worry about being swallowed up by other organizations all the time, so there's no reason for them to refuse. After hearing this, a few of them fell into deep thought. Everyone felt that Yu's words were very reasonable. Indeed, in the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks would become paper tigers. They wouldn't be able to cause any big waves. As long as their leader didn't fall, then the mercenary group wouldn't have any internal strife. Jianqin was also quietly pondering, carefully analyzing Yu's plan. In the end, he smiled and nodded, saying, This plan is not bad. Let's implement it like that. Seeing that her plan had been approved by Jianqin, Yu's face revealed a trace of a happy smile. She added, But there's one thing we have to remember. When we use force to force them to submit, we can't take away the authority of the original leader. Otherwise, even if they really submit, they'll have resentment in their hearts. After all, they've spent a lot of effort to develop the mercenary group. If they hand over their years of hard work to someone else, I don't think anyone will accept it. Chapter 547. Of course, Yu, this method of yours is very good. In the future, our Raging Flame mercenary group will develop according to this method and strive to become stronger in the shortest amount of time possible. Jianqin said with a big laugh. His face was full of happiness, but soon after he seemed to have thought of something and his smile gradually disappeared. He muttered, But before we develop the mercenary group, I still have a few things to take care of. Okay, today's matter ends here. Everyone go rest. We'll discuss the rest tomorrow. Kal had already arranged the best rooms for everyone in the mansion. Jianqin and the others all returned to their own rooms to rest. Only a few servants of the Kai clan were still cleaning up the broken door. In the quiet night, waves of noises could be heard from time to time. After Jianqin and the others went to rest, the news of what happened outside the Kai clan's courtyard quickly spread to the city lord's mansion. In the city lord's mansion, City Lord Yin Li was sitting in front of a table, leisurely drinking tea. Normally, City Lord Yin Li would have already gone to rest at this time of night, But he didn't do so today because he knew that tonight the heaven-defying mercenary group would make a big move against the Raging Flame mercenary group. After tonight, there might be no more Raging Flame mercenary group in Wake City, only the heaven-defying mercenary group. At this time, a black-clothed man quickly ran in from outside. He knelt on one knee and said, "Reporting to City Lord, the leader of the Raging Flame mercenary group has returned. The heaven-defying mercenary group has been defeated. Their leader, the one-armed man, has his right arm crippled and has been captured by the Raging Flame mercenary group. In addition, the heaven-defying mercenary group's great Saint Masters have all been killed. The rest of the members have all handed over their spatial belts to survive. They've all safely escaped." What? The leader of the Raging Flame mercenary group, who left 2 years ago, Jianqin, has suddenly returned. And the one-armed man has also been captured? City Lord Yin Li turned pale with fright. This result was far beyond his expectations. Yes, City Lord. Right now, the heaven-defying mercenary group's great Saint Masters have all been killed. The mercenary group has already been disbanded. The scout said. City Lord Yin Li's expression suddenly changed a few times, but soon after, he gradually calmed down. He lightly waved his hand and said, "You're dismissed. This subordinate will take his leave." The scout immediately retreated and disappeared from the main hall. After the scout left, Yin Li's expression became dignified. His eyebrows were tightly knitted together as he murmured, "I didn't think that Jianqin would actually come back at this time. Man proposes, but God disposes." Sigh. The distance between the Blue Wind Kingdom and Mercenary City was at least a few 100,000 kilometers. It would take at least half a year just to get there, so the news had not reached here yet. Naturally, City Lord Yin Li did not know what had happened in Mercenary City. The next morning, the remaining 60 members of the Raging Flame mercenary group stood quietly in a square formation in the Kai family's courtyard. All of them were burly and their eyes shone brightly. Across them, Jianchen, Mingdong, Dugafeng, Yunzheng, Seniorin, Taita, and Yu Yu stood there very casually. Jianchen's sharp gaze slowly swept past everyone before he gave an impassioned speech. He began to announce, "From today onwards, our Raging Flame mercenary group will truly stand up. From now on, we will become the #1 mercenary group in the Blue Wind Kingdom, or even the entire region. Right now, I solemnly announce something to everyone." With that, Jianchen paused slightly. He pointed at Mingdong and said loudly, "This is Mingdong. From today onwards, he will be the vice captain of our Raging Flame mercenary group. All of his authority will be below mine. Does anyone have any objections?" "No objections. Welcome our vice captain." Kyle was the first to express his approval. He was very emotional. Although Mingdong seemed very young, around the same age as his son, he had clearly seen how Mingdong had displayed his strength and killed the experts of the heaven-defying mercenary group. He was definitely an Earth Saint Master. They could not even invite such an expert, so how could they refuse? "No objections. Welcome, Vice Captain Mingdong. Welcome, Vice Captain." The members of the Raging Flame mercenary group all expressed their opinions. Not a single one of them objected. All of them were joyful and emotional. Jianchen continued, "This is Dugafeng. I'm sure everyone has seen his strength. He is an Earth Saint Master. In the future, he will be an elder of our Raging Flame mercenary group." This time, Jianchen had personally announced Dugafeng's strength, making all the members of the Raging Flame mercenary group extremely excited. All of them were overjoyed. Their feelings for the Flame mercenaries ran very deep, so deep that they were willing to use their lives to protect the Flame mercenaries. It was even more important than their own family. Now that their group had suddenly gained 2 Earth Saint Masters, it was impossible for them not to feel excited. In particular, Kyle, Qingfeng, Motian, and Charles, the 4 original members of the Raging Flame mercenary group, had even shed tears of excitement. The four of them knew that the bitter days of the Raging Flame mercenary group had finally come to an end. What awaited them was a glorious tomorrow. Jianchen's heartstrings were gently tugged at when he saw how excited everyone was. He looked at them with deep emotions. These people were the true backbone of the Raging Flame mercenary group. Even though they were not very powerful, they were completely loyal to the Raging Flame mercenary group. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and dismissed his emotions. He then continued with the introductions. These three are Yunzheng, Senior, and Taita. Yunzheng and Senior and our Earth Saint Masters. The two of them will be protectors of the Raging Flame mercenary group. As soon as they heard that Senior and Yunzheng were actually Earth Saint Masters, the Raging Flame mercenary group immediately erupted with cheers. Everyone was extremely excited. The cheers lasted for a while before Jianchen raised his hand to signal for everyone to quiet down. He then continued, Taita is also a great Saint Master. In the future, he, Kyle, Qingfeng, Motian, and Charles will all be Hall Masters. At the same time, everyone present today will become true core members of the Raging Flame mercenary group. All the resources you need for cultivation and living expenses will be borne by the group. The group will provide you with an endless supply of monster cores and assist you in increasing your strength as much as possible. Currently, Jian Chen's monster cores had already piled up like a mountain, and his wealth could rival that of an entire nation. However, there were only a few dozen people in this group, and the strongest among them was only a great Saint Master. This was only a drop in the ocean. Moreover, these people had gone through trials of life and death. They were absolutely loyal, so they were worthy of Jianchen's full support. Jianchen's words made everyone excited for quite a while. What did they become mercenaries for? Wasn't it to hunt magical beasts for monster cores for cultivation or to exchange for money to make a living? Now that Jianchen had taken care of all the monster cores and living expenses, it was equivalent to resolving all of their worries. They could devote all of their energy to cultivation, so they no longer needed to fight over a few monster cores. How could they not be excited? The great joy had come so suddenly that many people even believed that they had fallen into a dream and that what was happening before them was only an illusory dream. Jianchen took out a white jade bottle from his space ring and said, "This is a heavenly treasure that can't be bought in the outside world. It's called the 100 Herbs Wine. It can greatly increase your strength, so I'll bestow a drop to each of you." Jianchen turned the bottle down. Droplets of green liquid slowly flowed out from the bottle and floated in front of Jianchen. Jianchen used his powerful will to stabilize the 100 Herbs Wine in the air, then divided it into several dozen portions and delivered them to the 60 members of the Flame Mercenaries, as well as Kyle's group of 4. The Flame Mercenaries stared blankly at the droplets of green liquid floating in front of them. They were all stunned by Jianchen's method. They had never seen or heard of such a strange scene in their lives. Looking at the stunned members of the Flame Mercenaries, Jianchen gently smiled. "Hurry up and consume it. If it's exposed to the outside world for too long, the effects will be greatly diminished." Only then did the members of the Flame Mercenaries return to their senses. They quickly opened their mouths and swallowed the green liquid. As soon as the green liquid entered their stomachs, it immediately transformed into boundless energy that filled their bodies. All the members of the Flame Mercenaries were alarmed. They immediately sat down cross-legged on the ground to circulate and digest the energy in their bodies. The 1,000-year-old 100 Herbs Wine was extremely beneficial even to Heaven Saint Masters. Back in Longevity Valley, Jianchen had consumed the 100 Herbs Wine, which had strengthened his mind by 50%. Now in Kargath Academy, just a single cup of the wine had allowed Kaffir to break through the bottleneck that had blocked him for many years. This was more than enough to demonstrate the effects of the 100 Herbs Wine. Even though Jianchen had only given a single droplet to the members of the Flame Mercenaries, The tremendous energy within the droplet was enough to allow their strength to increase by leaps and bounds, since they were all great saints and saint masters. 1 hour later, the 4 great saint masters, Qingfeng, Kyle, Emotion, and Charles, were the first to wake up. At the instant they opened their eyes, there were a few streaks of radiance that flashed across their eyes. I've actually reached the peak of Great Saint Master. I'm only a step away from becoming an Earth Saint Master. Kyle's face was filled with unconcealable excitement. Chapter 548. After the 4 of them woke up, another dozen, or so people from the Raging Flame chant, also woke up. Feeling their soaring strength, they all revealed extremely excited expressions. These dozen, or so people's strength, were originally at the level of intermediate or high-level Saint Masters. This drop of 100 grass wine allowed all of them to break through to the initial level of Great Saint Master. Soon after, another incense stick of time passed, and the last dozen, or so people, woke up. When they felt their strength increase, they all trembled with excitement and couldn't help but let out cries of joy. With this, the strength of all the members of the Raging Flame mercenary group increased. All the great saints became Saint Masters, and there was no one below a Saint Master. Those who were originally mid-level Saint Masters all became Great Saint Masters, and those who were only early-level Saint Masters also became high-level Saint Masters after drinking the 100 grass wine. In less than 2 hours, the strength of all the members of the Raging Flame mercenary group increased by several levels. With their current strength, even if Jianqin didn't interfere, they would still be invincible in this small wake city. Their combined strength was even above the city lord's mansion. Thank you for your generosity, Captain. All the members of the Raging Flame mercenary group bowed deeply to Jianqin with excited expressions. Jianqin faintly smiled and said, "Although your strength has increased, you still need to practice your battle prowess. In a bit, I will give each of you 100 purple coins. Once you get the money, go out and buy some necessities for survival. Tomorrow morning, everyone will go to the depths of the magical beast mountain range to train. Only when you can kill 3 magical beasts at the same level as you can return. Kyle, Emotion, Qingfeng, Charles, the 4 of you will go with the group. You must meet my requirements before coming out." Jianqin's words made the expressions of everyone in the Raging Flame mercenary group become very serious. Magical beasts at the same level of strength were very difficult to kill. Normally, it would take 2 or even 3 people to kill a magical beast at the same level of strength. This was because magical beasts had tenacious vitality, thick skin, and large bodies. Unless it was someone with extremely high battle prowess, very few people could defeat a magical beast at the same level of strength in a one-on-one situation. However, the mission that Jianqin had given them was to kill 3 magical beasts of the same strength as themselves. In the hearts of the Flame Mercenaries, this was definitely a mission that they would never be able to complete. "Commander, with our current strength, killing a Tier 4 demonic beast by ourselves is already a very difficult task. Now, you want us to face 3 demonic beasts of the same strength as us simultaneously? Isn't that a little too difficult?" Charles asked with a troubled expression. Jianqin shook his head. "It's not difficult at all. Back then, I could kill Class 2 magical beasts as a saint, Class 3 magical beasts as a great saint, and Class 4 magical beasts as a Saint Master. Since I can do it, why can't everyone do it? The reason I'm sending you to the mountain range of magical beasts this time is to strengthen your battle prowess. You must always remember that the key to victory against opponents at the same level of strength lies in rich battle experience, technique, and speed. These 3 points are extremely important. You're going to the mountain range of magical beasts this time to train these 3 points." Jianqin paused for a moment as he solemnly swept his gaze over everyone. "Moreover, before we go to the mountain range of magical beasts, I have something that I want to impart to you all. It will be of great assistance to you all and will greatly increase your strength. All right, everyone is dismissed. Afterwards, Jianqin took out a large amount of purple gold from his space ring and distributed 100 pieces to each member of the Raging Flame mercenary group so that they could go buy the corresponding items. Although buying necessities for life in the wilderness didn't require that much money, many of them had families and needed to feed their families. Although the mission Jianqin gave everyone made them feel very pressured, they couldn't help but smile happily when they saw the 100 shining purple gold coins in their hands. A single purple gold coin could be exchanged for 100 gold coins. These 100 purple gold coins were enough for their families to live a life of luxury for most of their lives. This amount of money was perhaps something that they would never be able to earn in their entire lives. After receiving the money, the members of the Raging Flame mercenary group dispersed. They excitedly left the Kai clan and went to the market outside to purchase items. Kyle, Qingfeng, and Mo Tian. Charles, the 4 of you come with me. Jianqin called out to the 4 of them before making his way to his room by himself. Kyle and the others followed closely behind Jianqin and entered Jianqin's room. When they arrived, Jianqin was already seated on the table. Before him was a thick stack of books with simple covers. Jianqin pushed all the books before the 4 of them and said, "There are a total of 8 battle skills here. 6 of them are human tier battle skills and 2 are earth tier battle skills. Take them and cultivate." The 4 of them trembled violently when they heard that it was a battle skill. Their gazes immediately became scorching hot when they looked at the books. In particular, when they heard what Jianqin had said at the end, they became uncontrollably excited. Their entire bodies trembled violently. Charles became completely red from excitement. With a trembling voice, he said, "Captain WW, what did you say?" "These are 6 human tier battle skills and 2 earth tier battle skills? And they're all for us to cultivate." Battle skills were extremely valuable items on the Tianyuan continent. They were countless times more valuable than cultivation methods. Even the lowest human tier battle skills were priceless treasures on the market. Regular mercenaries would never be able to touch even the lowest human tier battle skills. Only the experts of the Tianyuan continent and people with powerful backgrounds had the right to learn these battle skills. Earth tier battle skills were even more valuable. Even among Earth Saint Masters, only a very small portion of them could grasp Earth tier battle skills. However, Jianqin had given them 2 Earth tier battle skills, so it was impossible for them not to go wild with joy. Jianqin smiled when he saw how excited the 4 of them were. He slowly said, "Speaking of which, you're all original members of the Flame Mercenaries. Coupled with the fact that you've suffered quite a lot for the development of the Flame Mercenaries over the years and your loyalty, I, Jianqin, will obviously do everything I can to nurture you. Take these 8 battle skills and pass them on to the other brothers. Those below Great Saint Master can cultivate the human tier battle skills because earth tier battle skills are not something they can use. As for the earth tier battle skills, anyone who has reached Great Saint Master can cultivate them. Captain, you've spent so much effort to nurture us, so we definitely won't disappoint you. We will follow you for the rest of our lives and bow to you until our deaths." The 4 of them knelt down at the same time as they spoke emotionally. Jianqin smiled at the 4 of them. He personally helped them up and said, "Work hard. I, Jianqin, will never mistreat any of my brothers. Once you reach Earth Saint Master, I'll pass on the Heaven tier battle skills to you." Kyle's group of 4 violently trembled once again, their expressions instantly becoming sluggish. When the words Heaven ranked battle skill entered their ears, it was like a clap of thunder had exploded in their heads, causing their minds to go blank. Their entire bodies became sluggish. They couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. A Heaven tier battle skill was a supreme battle skill in their eyes. Even Heaven Saint Masters rarely grasped a Heaven tier battle skill. At the very least, none of the Heaven Saint Masters in the Blue Wind Kingdom had grasped a Heaven tier battle skill. Yet, Jianqin was telling them that once they reached Earth Saint Master, He would pass on a heaven-tier battle skill that even the Heaven Saint Masters in the Blue Wind Kingdom had not grasped. How could they not be in disbelief? After a while, Charles was the first to come back to his senses. He stared at Gentian in shock and said with a trembling voice, "Captain, don't tell me. You still have a heaven-tier battle skill." Gentian smiled and nodded. "That's right, I do have a heaven-tier battle skill, and I have more than one." Now, Gentian didn't hide the fact that he had a heaven-tier battle skill because his current strength was enough to protect it. At least among the Heaven Saint Masters, no one would dare to have any ideas about him. Charles and the others stared blankly at Gentian with their mouths wide open. To them, this news was just too shocking. At this moment, Gentian's expression changed, and he smiled. "An acquaintance has come. Let's go out and take a look." Gentian walked out of the room, and behind him, Kyle and the other three were still following behind Gentian. Clearly, they still hadn't recovered from their shock. Gentian arrived at the courtyard and just happened to see City, Lord Yin, Li in luxurious robes, chatting with Ming Dong and the others with a smile. As soon as Gentian stepped into the courtyard, he was discovered by the sharp-eyed City, Lord Yunli. He immediately went up to him with a smile. "Oh, Brother Gentian, you finally returned. 2 years ago, I heard that you went to participate in the mercenary gathering, and I was worried for a long time. I was afraid that Brother Gentian would encounter danger, but it looks like my worries were unnecessary. Brother Gentian is young and talented, and his strength is incomparable. Even if he encountered danger, he would be able to survive. Now that I look at Brother Gentian in high spirits, I'm sure you must have achieved great results in the mercenary gathering." Chapter 549. Hearing this, City Lord Yun Li was inwardly shocked. He originally thought that Gentian didn't go to Mercenary City because there weren't many great Saint Masters that came out alive. But now that he heard Gentian's words, it seemed like he really did go to the mercenary gathering and even came out alive. What a lucky brat! City Lord Yin Li thought to himself. But on the surface, he had a different expression. With a friendly smile, he said, "Ha ha ha! This is also proof of Brother Gentian's strength. I presume that Brother Gentian gained a lot from his trip to Mercenary City." "I did gain a little, but it's really not worth mentioning," Gentian politely said. City Lord Yin Li's face was full of enthusiasm as he chatted with Gentian, but his eyes were constantly sizing up Kyle and the others. With his intuition, he could clearly feel the changes in Kyle and the others. His heart was filled with shock as he thought to himself, "Peak Great Saint Master. This is the strength of a peak Great Saint Master. Impossible, the strongest among them is only an intermediate Great Saint Master. How come they all broke through as soon as Gentian came back? And they even reached the peak of Great Saint Master, which is the same realm as me." City Lord Yin Li didn't stay in the Kai clan for long. After chatting with Gentian for a while, he hurriedly left because he had important matters to attend to. After City Lord Yin Li left, Breeze coldly snorted and said, "This Yun Li isn't a good person either. Even though he secretly helped the heaven-defying mercenary group in the past, did he really think that we didn't know?" That's right. When the alliance was disbanded, the one-armed man brought a few experts to Wake City. At that time, if it wasn't for City Lord Yin Li's secret help, the one-armed man definitely wouldn't have been able to reunite the alliance so smoothly. Charles hatefully said. Everyone had a lot of opinions about City Lord Yin Li. Hearing this, a cold light flashed through Gentian's eyes, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he turned to Kyle and the others and said, "Let's go to the House of Dole." The House of Duo are used to have some fame in Wake City. They were one of the few major powers in Wake City, but ever since the current head of the House of Duo passed away, House of Duo was taken over by his son. House of Duo had left the Flame Mercenaries to survive on its own. Since then, House of Duo's influence in Wake City had greatly decreased. This was because House of Duo only had one great Saint Master, Jianchen, Mingdong, and the others rode their class 3 magic beast mounts to the House of Dole under the lead of Kyle and the others. At this moment, the House of Dole was no longer as glorious as it used to be. The simple and old door was tightly shut, with fallen leaves fluttering in front of it. There weren't even any guards guarding the door. Care personally stepped forward and knocked on the heavy and simple door. After waiting for a moment, the door slowly opened. The one who opened the door was an old man with a head full of white hair. The old man obviously knew Care. He quickly smiled and greeted him. "So it's Patriarch Care. Come in, come in." The old man quickly opened the door and welcomed Care inside. Kyle said, "Immediately call YG out. Tell him that the leader of the Flame Mercenary Group has returned." The leader of the Flame Mercenary Group. The old man was stunned for a moment. He subconsciously looked at the people riding their magic beast mounts outside the door. He quickly reacted and hurriedly said, All right. I'll go call the house lord right away." After speaking, the old man hurriedly walked inside. Kyle and Breeze each pushed open a heavy door and said to Jianchen, "Leader, this way, please." Jianchen and the others dismounted from their magic beast mounts and walked into the House of Dole's courtyard. At this time, YG, who had received the news, hurriedly walked out with a woman and a child. YG was the current head of the House of Dole and was also Vaz's only son. YG was no stranger to Jianchen and immediately bowed when he arrived in front of Jianchen. YG greets the leader. "Greetings, leader." The middle-aged woman beside YG also imitated YG and bowed to Jianchen. Her expression was respectful, yet fearful. Only the child, who looked to be only a few years old, opened his large eyes and looked at Jianchen and the others with a face full of anger. Jianchen looked at YG with a gentle gaze and smiled. "YG, this must be your wife and child." "Yes, leader. They are my wife and child," YG said to Jianchen with some apprehension. When his father had died, he had led the House of Dole away from the Flame Mercenary Group. Now that the leader of the Flame Mercenary Group had personally come to visit, he felt very nervous. He was afraid that Jianchen had come to condemn him. Jianchen smiled amiably. "YG, there's no need for you to be nervous. I've only come to visit you today. No matter what, your House of Dole was once a member of our Flame Mercenary Group. Moreover, your father died for the Flame Mercenary Group. He was a hero of our Flame Mercenary Group and had rendered great service to us." YG let out a sigh of relief when he heard Jianchen's words. A sliver of sorrow appeared in his eyes when he thought of his dead father. YG, the development of the Flame Mercenary Group was indeed extremely difficult when I wasn't here. But now that I've returned, the development of the Flame Mercenary Group is unstoppable. I wonder if you're still willing to stay with the Flame Mercenary Group. I'll put all the hard work your father has done for the Mercenary Group on your head. I'll nurture you with all my strength, Jianchen continued. YG hesitated when he heard that. He looked at his wife and child and shook his head. Leader, YG is extremely grateful for your good intentions. But YG doesn't have any lofty ambitions. Right now, I just want to guard this little piece of land and live a stable life. I don't want to go back to the struggles of the past where I would struggle all day and lose my life at any time. Jianchen sighed gently. That's fine too. Since you like a stable life, I, Jianchen, won't force you. In the past, your father contributed a lot to the mercenary group and even sacrificed himself for the group. Since he's already passed away, I'll give you all the credit he left behind. Jianchen took out a space belt that he had prepared long ago from his space ring and passed it to YG. He said, There's some money and monster cores in there. Just treat it as me giving it to you on behalf of your father. Take it. I hope it'll be of some help to you. YG extended his trembling hand and slowly accepted the space belt from Jianchen. His eyes were filled with tears as gratitude filled his face. When he had learned that the leader of the flame mercenaries had personally come to visit, he had thought that the other party had come to interrogate him, causing him to worry for quite a while. However, he never would have thought that not only did the leader of the flame mercenaries not blame him for leaving the team, he even gave him money and a magic core. Thank you, Captain. Ji said gratefully. Jianqin smiled and said, although your father has passed away, we should still take care of his descendants. If your Daer clan encounters any trouble in the future, just look for the flame mercenary group. I'll be taking my leave now. With that, Jianqin turned around and left. He mounted a Class 3 magical beast and left the Daer clan. Jianqin rode the Class 3 magical beast towards the Kai clan at a steady pace. The snow-white white tiger was still sleeping peacefully in Jianqin's embrace, digesting the effects of the heavenly resources. Jianqin gently stroked the white tiger's soft and warm white fur. With the influx of heavenly resources, the white tiger's strength had increased extremely rapidly. It had already successfully reached Class 4. Mingdong's group and Kyle's group of 4 quietly followed behind. Although they had already noticed the white tiger in Jianqin's embrace, they only thought that it was a cute magical beast that Jianqin had raised, so they didn't pay too much attention to it. Kyle, just who stole the infant Class 5 magical beast that you obtained? Jianqin suddenly asked. Kyle and the others hesitated for a moment before Qingfeng replied. We've sent people to investigate in the past, but we didn't find any clues. On the night the infant was stolen, we sent people to stand guard at the city gates. As soon as someone took the infant out of the city, they would be discovered. However, we still didn't find anything even after 10 days of waiting. The people in charge of searching the city also didn't have any news. At that time, we guessed that the infant Class 5 magical beast had most likely been taken out of the city. We didn't know where it had gone, so we gave up on searching. The infant of the Golden Tiger King has an unforgettable story with our flame mercenary group. Jianqin sighed emotionally. His eyes were filled with reminiscence, as if he was recalling the scene from back then. Kyle and the others looked at Jianqin in confusion. They asked in confusion, Captain, just what does this infant have to do with our flame mercenary group? Enmity. Jianqin indifferently replied before closing his eyes. The 4 of them were filled with doubt. Although they had joined the flame mercenary group for quite some time now, they were completely unaware of the past of the flame mercenary group. Captain, just what kind of enmity does our mercenary group have with this infant? Qingfeng asked curiously, but he didn't receive a response from Jianqin. Seeing this, the 4 of them thought that Jianqin wasn't willing to tell them the details, so they obediently shut their mouths and stopped asking. Chapter 550. Jianqin's expression instantly became gloomy, his cold eyes filled with a strong killing intent. He immediately turned around and led everyone towards the city, Lord's mansion. Seeing Jianqin's sudden change in expression, Kyle and the other 3 felt very puzzled. They didn't understand what had happened to make Jianqin's expression become so ugly. Although they were very puzzled, the 4 of them didn't dare to ask Jianqin anything when they saw his gloomy expression. They could only quietly follow behind Jianqin. The city Lord's mansion was located in the center of Wake City. Jianqin and the others were riding on Class 3 magical beast mounts as they passed through the busy streets, attracting many curious and envious gazes. In this small Wake City, Class 3 magical beast mounts were already very rare. Normally, it was very difficult to even see one. Now that there were 7 of them, they naturally became the focus of attention on the streets, causing many passers-by and mercenaries to discuss in low voices. They're able to ride Class 3 magical beast mounts at such a young age. And look at the clothes they're wearing. They're all high-quality goods. These people must be disciples of some large family. Look! The girl walking in the middle is so beautiful. She's like a fairy from the heavens. I, Buttface, swear that she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. She's so beautiful that I'm almost suffocating. Aren't the 4 people walking at the back the 4 leaders of the flame mercenaries? Strange, no matter how I look at them, they seem to be servants. I just heard that the leader of the Raging Flame mercenary group suddenly returned last night. Could it be that one of the people riding Class 3 magical beast mounts is the leader of the Raging Flame mercenary group? I heard that the leader of the Raging Flame mercenary group is very strong and very young. Could that be the youth walking in the front? I heard someone say this morning that the leader of the heaven-defying mercenary group, One-Armed Hero, was killed by the leader of the Flame mercenary group. The other experts were also killed by the Flame mercenary group. Now, the heaven-defying mercenary group has disbanded. I just don't know if it's true. Genshin's group rode their Class 3 magical beast mounts through the streets in a high-profile manner. Everywhere they passed, a buzz of discussion could be heard. However, Genshin's group turned a deaf ear to this phenomenon. They were already used to being the center of attention. Genshin's group quickly arrived at the city, Lord's estate. Kyle immediately went up to negotiate with the guards at the gates. The captain of our flame mercenaries has come to pay a visit to the city lord. Quickly notify him. The Raging Flame mercenary group was very famous in Wake City. When the guards at the gate heard that the leader of the Raging Flame mercenary group had personally come, they didn't dare to be negligent. They immediately sent out a few people to respectfully invite them in and inform the city lord at the same time. When the city lord received news that Genshin had personally come, he hurriedly put down the matters at hand and personally came out to greet them. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Genshin's group was warmly invited into the main hall by the city lord. Brother Genshin, I didn't think that you would actually personally come to my city lord's estate. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. The city lord chuckled, his expression incomparably warm. Genshin's gloomy expression had already returned to normal. He faintly smiled. I wouldn't have come without a reason. This time I came because I have a matter that I hope the city lord can help me with. Ha 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 ha. Brother Genshin, you're too polite. If there's anything you need from me, please don't hesitate to ask. With our friendship, there's no need to be so polite. The city lord laughed heartily. Genshin muttered to himself for a while before saying, Sir City Lord, a few days ago, our flame mercenary group obtained a Class 5 magical beast cub. Unfortunately, it was stolen by a powerful and mysterious person at night. Furthermore, that person even killed one of our founding members. Although our flame mercenary group has spent a great deal of effort to find this mysterious person's whereabouts, we haven't found the slightest clue. Thus, I hope that Sir City Lord can assist our flame mercenary group in finding the culprit as soon as possible. No problem. Brother Genshin, don't worry. I'll immediately send people to search the entire city and do my best to help you find the culprit. The city lord waved his large hand and agreed without hesitation to cooperate with Genshin in finding the culprit. Then I'll have to trouble you, Sir City Lord. Genshin cupped his hands and smiled. The city lord chuckled. It's no trouble at all. Brother Genshin, I, Yunli, am older than you by 20 years. If you don't mind, let's call each other brothers. In the future, if Brother Genshin needs anything from me, I'll definitely do my best to help you. Hearing those words, Kyle, Qingfeng, Emotian, and Charles all snorted inwardly. Their gazes towards the city lord were filled with disdain. Although they didn't know what realm Genshin's strength had reached, since Genshin could even take out a heaven-tier battle skill, his strength couldn't be underestimated. The position of such an expert was completely different from that of a mere city lord like Yunli. Sir City Lord, let's talk about other matters after we find the culprit. This culprit killed one of my Raging Flame mercenaries' senior figures. No matter who he is, I, Genshin, will definitely not let him off. So right now, I'm in a hurry to find this culprit. Genshin's tone was indifferent. It was equivalent to rejecting City Lord Yunli's offer. Although he was rejected by Genshin, City Lord Yin Li wasn't angry at all. He smiled and said, "Since Brother Jianchen is in such a hurry to find the culprit, then I'll definitely do my best to help you. At least in Wake City, there's nothing that I can't solve." After saying that, City Lord Yin Li immediately found a soldier and said with a serious expression, "Quickly go and inform Commander Duo Li. Have him lead a group of city guards to search the entire Wake City. Pay close attention to any unknown foreign experts." This subordinate obeys, the soldier replied, and then retreated. Wait, Jianchen suddenly opened his mouth. "Sir City Lord, there's no need to go through so much trouble to find the culprit. That mysterious expert is wearing a mask, and none of us know what he looks like. However, one thing we can be sure of is that the mysterious expert is after the Class 5 magical beasts young. So, we should focus our efforts on finding the Class 5 magical beasts young. That way, we'll have a much bigger target." That's right. City Lord Yin Li said in agreement. "Brother Jianchen is really smart. You came up with such a good idea so quickly. This way, the difficulty of finding the culprit will be much lower. Since the mysterious expert is after the Class 5 magical beast, he definitely won't abandon it. As long as we find the Class 5 magical beast, we'll find the culprit." Sir City Lord is right. As long as we find the Class 5 magical beast, we'll find the culprit who killed the senior elders of the Raging Flame mercenaries. Sir City Lord, you're the most well-informed. I wonder if you've heard anything about the Class 5 magical beast in the past few days? Jianchen stared closely at City Lord Yin Li as he smiled. City Lord Yin Li's expression was very natural. He sighed and said, "Brother Jianchen, you think too highly of me. Although I'm well-informed, I can't find out everything. As for the matter of the Class 5 magical beast, I don't know. Perhaps the person who stole it has already left Wake City." "Left Wake City? Really?" Jianchen muttered in a low voice. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he said, "Everyone follow me!" After saying that, Jianchen walked out of the hall without greeting City Lord Yin Li. Seeing Jianchen's departing figure, City Lord Yin Li's expression changed a few times before he quickly regained his calm. He hurriedly chased after him, enthusiastically urging him to stay. "Brother Jianchen, why are you leaving so quickly? You're too lazy to come here. So why don't you stay for a while? I'll immediately prepare a banquet to celebrate Brother Jianchen's triumphant return from Mercenary City." "Who said I'm leaving? I just want to walk around a bit. City Lord Yin Li, if you don't mind, why don't you accompany me for a walk?" Jianchen said expressionlessly, his tone suddenly becoming cold. "Haha, then let this old brother be Brother Jianchen's guide. Brother, the garden is over there, let's go sit there." After saying that, City Lord Yin Li pulled on Jianchen's arm and tried to pull him towards the garden. Jianchen's arm shook lightly, shaking off City Lord Yin Li's hand as he said, "Who said I'm going to the garden? City Lord Yin Li, it's better for you to stay by my side quietly." Jianchen didn't even look at City Lord Yin Li. His tone became very cold as he directly walked towards a small building. City Lord Yin Li's expression also became somewhat ugly after hearing Jianchen's words. But when he saw the direction Jianchen was heading, a trace of shock flashed through his eyes. He hurriedly chased after him and said, "Brother Jianchen, that's where I rest. What are you doing there?" This time, Jianchen didn't pay any attention to City Lord Yin Li. City Lord Yin Li wanted to stop Jianchen from approaching his bedroom. But how could he stop Jianchen's footsteps? City Lord Yin Li seemed to be angered by Jianchen's actions. The smile on his face had completely disappeared. He looked at Jianchen with an ugly expression and said, "Jianchen, what do you want to do? State your intentions." "You'll know in a moment." Jianchen sneered, and at this time he had already arrived in front of the small building. He directly kicked open the door and strode in. City Lord Yin Li's expression changed greatly as he moved to block Jianchen and shouted, "Jianchen, what is the meaning of this? This is my city lord's mansion. How can I let you do as you please? Jianchen sneered, and his hand made a grasping motion, and a majestic world's yuan qi quickly gathered in his hand. Then before city Lord Yin Li could react, he suddenly bombarded the ground. With a loud bang, the whole ground shook violently and dust filled the room, blocking everyone's vision. A gust of wind blew through the room, carrying away all the dust. When everyone's vision became clear, they saw that in the center of the room, there was a dark hole that led to the basement. Seeing this hole, City Lord Yin Li's expression changed greatly, and his whole body became sluggish. Jianchen looked at City Lord Yin Li with a sharp gaze and coldly snorted. Kyle, Qingfeng, Charles, Mo, Tian, the four of you go in. Yes, Kyle and the other three responded and jumped into the hole at the same time, entering the basement. Chapter 551. City Lord Yin Li's expression was extremely ugly as he watched this scene unfold. Since things had already gotten to this point, he knew that there was no way for him to explain himself. Even if he made up a perfect lie, he wouldn't be able to hide it. After all, Jianchen and the others weren't idiots. Kyle and the other three's expressions were incomparably gloomy as they glared at City Lord Yin Li. Their eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. Sir City Lord, so the mysterious expert who snuck into our Raging Flame mercenary group and stole the cub was you, and Duokong was also killed by you. Who would have thought that the murder we've been searching for so long would actually be the City Lord? Mo Tian gritted his teeth as he spoke. His gaze toward City Lord Yin Li was like that of a bloodthirsty beast. He couldn't wait to skin him, eat his flesh, and drink his blood. City Lord Yin Li was completely stunned. At this moment, he couldn't find anything to say. Although he really wanted to push this matter away, when he thought of his conversation with Jianchen, as well as the appearance of the rank 5 cub, he couldn't find anything to say. Jianchen's words weren't wrong. The culprit was after the rank 5 cub. As long as they could find the rank 5 cub, it would be equivalent to finding the culprit. City Lord Yin Li, I never would have thought that you were the one who stole the rank 5 cub and killed Duokong at the same time. We were too stupid. We should have guessed that it was you because in Wake City, the only Saint Master with the highest chance of mastering a battle skill was you, City Lord. How hateful! How hateful! We didn't even suspect you before. De Air's face was also full of anger, and his face was filled with dense killing intent. Qingfeng looked towards Jianchen and said with righteous indignation, Captain, now that we found the culprit who killed Duokong, we definitely can't let him go. Otherwise, Duokong won't be able to rest in peace. We must take revenge for Duokong. Qingfeng's words caused City Lord Yin Li's expression to change once again. His eyes began to flicker. Jianchen nodded and stared at Yin Li expressionlessly. What else do you have to say? City Lord Yin Li also knew that there was no point in continuing to quibble, so he decided not to hide it any longer. That's right, the one who infiltrated your flame mercenary group that night was indeed me. The one who stole the Type 5 juvenile beast was also me. And at the same time, Duokong was also killed by me. But so what? I, Yin Li, am the City Lord of Wake City, and an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom. If you make things difficult for an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom, then you are challenging the authority of the Blue Wind Kingdom and becoming an enemy of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Hearing Yin Li's words, Jianchen's gaze turned cold, and the corners of his mouth curled up in a mocking sneer. The expressions of Duo Air and the others also changed, becoming much more dignified. In their eyes, the Blue Wind Kingdom was a behemoth that could not be provoked. Yin Li's words made them feel very apprehensive. City Lord Yin Li, you think too highly of the Blue Wind Kingdom. You actually dare to mention the Blue Wind Kingdom in front of me. What a joke! Jianchen sneered, his eyes full of disdain. City Lord Yin Li's expression changed slightly. He originally thought that bringing up the Blue Wind Kingdom would make Jianchen feel apprehensive. But looking at Jianchen's disdainful expression, it seemed that his wishful thinking had not worked at all. Jianchen, could it be that your flame mercenary group wants to make an enemy of the Blue Wind Kingdom? City Lord Yin Li shouted in a stern voice, but when he thought of Jianchen's vague background, he felt a burst of uneasiness in his heart. Jianchen's identity was indeed too mysterious in his eyes. At least until now, he knew that Jianchen was the leader of the Flame Mercenary Group. But Jianchen's talent and temperament showed that he could not be a country bumpkin from a small mountain village. The Blue Wind Kingdom. He is not qualified to make an enemy of me, Jianchen. Kyle, tie up the respected city lord and take him away. Jianchen ordered. Yes. Kyle and the others also understood from Jianchen's words that their leader did not put the Blue Wind Kingdom in his eyes. Their courage was immediately boosted, and they responded in unison. At the same time, they stepped forward to try to capture City Lord Yunli. Let's see who dares. I am the City Lord of the Blue Wind Kingdom, a bureaucrat of the kingdom. Let's see who dares to capture me. City Lord Yin Li's aura sword, and he looked at Kyle and the others fearlessly. A two-handed great sword appeared in his hand, and he planned to resist with all his might. Jianchen's face sank, and he shouted, "Capture him!" Kyle and the others did not hesitate in the slightest, and they all took out their saint weapons and rushed toward City Lord Yunli. City Lord Yin Li's eyes flashed with a cold light, but he did not want to meet them head-on. He suddenly waved his great sword, blasting a large hole in the wall behind him. In a flash, he dashed out of the hole, and at the same time shouted, "Assassins, the Flame Mercenary Group is plotting a rebellion. All soldiers, listen to my order. Quickly come and eliminate the traitors." City Lord Yin Li's voice was very loud. Not only did all the soldiers in the city Lord's mansion hear it, even the people on the streets outside heard it clearly. All the soldiers in the city Lord's mansion immediately moved, and large batches of soldiers came from all over the city Lord's mansion. On the streets outside, everyone who heard this voice was stunned, and soon after, a fierce discussion erupted. Did I hear wrong? The Flame Mercenary Group is plotting a rebellion. The Flame Mercenary Group is our Wake City's strongest mercenary group. What are they plotting a rebellion for? I heard that the leader of the Flame Mercenary Group returned last night. Could it be that their leader is plotting something 2 years ago when the magical beasts attacked our city? The leader of the Flame Mercenary Group made a great contribution to protect our city. How could he be plotting a rebellion? City Lord Yin Li's words caused a huge commotion. Everyone who heard this voice, whether they were merchants or mercenaries, were curiously discussing it, and all of them expressed their puzzlement. Within the city lord's mansion, over 300 soldiers had already gathered, surrounding Jianchen's group, so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. City Lord Yin Li stood in the distance, surrounded by more than 10 soldiers, as he coldly sneered at Jianchen. The expressions of Jianchen's group did not change even though they were surrounded by over 300 soldiers. They remained composed, especially Mingdong, Dugafeng, Yunzheng, and Signorin. They did not seem to care at all. They did not even glance at the surrounding soldiers, directly treating them like they were nothing. Respected City Lord, I have to say that you are too naive. Do you think that these soldiers can do anything to us? Mingdong looked at City Lord Yin Li with a face full of ridicule. City Lord Yin Li said in a deep voice, "Indeed, these soldiers can't do anything to you. But don't forget that our Wake City has 100,000 soldiers. Your Flame Mercenary Group is plotting a rebellion, and from today onwards, there will be no place for you in our Blue Wind Kingdom." City Lord Yin Li knew that Jianchen wouldn't let him go, so he was prepared to throw caution to the wind and give it his all. In his heart, his biggest reliance was the 100,000 soldiers of Wake City. Once the Flame Mercenary Group killed the soldiers of the city, the significance would be completely different from killing a normal merchant or mercenary. It would be the same as directly making an enemy out of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Naturally, there would be people from the upper echelons coming to deal with them. According to City Lord Yin Li's thoughts, once the Flame Mercenary Group committed a grave crime, they would be charged with the crime of plotting a rebellion. At that time, even if there were people behind them, it wouldn't matter. Plotting against the law, plotting a rebellion. Esteemed City Lord, you've put a huge label on our heads. Ming Dong chuckled. But do you think that's enough to scare us? Humph, a group of traitors. Even at death's door, you are still so arrogant. All soldiers, listen up. Kill everyone without mercy. City Lord Yin Li decisively gave the order. The 300 soldiers didn't hesitate and charged toward Jianshan's group. Ming Dong laughed coldly. His entire body turned into a green light, and in a flash he dashed towards Yin Li with incredible speed. Before Yin Li could react, Ming Dong was already in front of him. He struck out with both hands, sending a dozen soldiers in front of Yin Li flying. Then he reached out with his right hand and grabbed Yin Li's neck. Ming Dong's speed was just too fast. City Lord Yin Li couldn't see anything clearly until he felt a suffocating sensation coming from his throat. Only then did he realize in horror that his neck was firmly gripped by his opponent. At the same time, Yin Zhang, Signorin, and Dugafeng all struck out with their palms. Powerful saint force surged out from their bodies and formed a powerful shockwave that sent all the soldiers in the surroundings flying. Many of them spat out blood as they were heavily injured. With their strength as Earth Saint Masters, they didn't need to expend too much energy to deal with these weak soldiers. City Lord Yin Li looked at Ming Dong in horror. His face was filled with disbelief. He couldn't believe that Ming Dong had such strength at such a young age. Brother, the city lord has been captured by me. How should we deal with him? Should we kill him or cripple him? Ming Dong asked Jianshan. Hearing this, City Lord Yin Li's face changed drastically. He wanted to say something, but his throat was tightly gripped by Ming Dong, and he couldn't say anything. We can't just let him go like this. Tie him up and take him back. Jianshan said, All right, but to prevent him from playing any tricks, let's first injure him and make him lose the ability to fight. Ming Dong said, and struck City Lord Yin Li's chest with his palm. Spurt! A mouthful of blood spurted from City Lord Yin Li's mouth. He had been heavily injured by Ming Dong's casual strike. Afterwards, the four of them found a chain from the City Lord's estate and tied up the heavily injured and pale City Lord Yin Li. They were taken away from the estate under the gaze of several hundred soldiers. No one dared to stop them. The city lord has been captured by the traitors of the Flame Mercenaries. Go inform Commander Duo Li. A few soldiers hurried out of the estate to inform Commander Duo Li. Chapter 552. Jianshan and Ming Dong's group of 7 rode their Class 3 magical beasts through the streets, heading towards the Kai family at a normal pace. Behind them, Kai Er and the other 3 were dragging the chained-up City Lord Yin Li. Because City Lord Yin Li had been heavily injured by Ming Dong, his body was extremely weak. Adding on the fact that Kai Er and the other 3 were quite strong, City Lord Yin Li didn't waste any energy trying to break free from the chains. He knew very well that it would be very difficult for him to escape. Jianshan's group swaggered down the streets with the City Lord Yin Li in tow. Along the way, everyone stopped to look at them. Everyone looked at them with shock and disbelief. No one would have thought that the Flame Mercenaries would actually tie up the City Lord Yin Li like a prisoner. The people of the Raging Flame Mercenary Group are conspiring against the Blue Wind Kingdom. They are traitors to the Blue Wind Kingdom, so we can't let them go. Quickly raise your weapons and kill all of them. In the future, you will all be heroes of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Although City Lord Yin Li was tied up, he could still speak. He was using his words to accuse Jianshan's group of crimes, trying to use the surrounding people to cause trouble for Jianshan's group. Hearing this, the gazes of the surrounding people towards the Flame Mercenaries immediately changed. Soon after, they began to discuss in low voices. However, they weren't idiots. They wouldn't conclude that Jianshan's group were all traitors just based on City Lord Yunli's words. Adding on the fact that the flame mercenaries were a huge deterrent in Wake City, no one dared to go up and stop Jianshan's group. Jianshan looked at City Lord Yunli with disdain and said, "City Lord Yunli, 2 years ago I, Jianshan, had some respect for you. I thought you were a straightforward and upright person. But I didn't expect you to hide so deeply. Your heart is actually so despicable. After being exposed for stealing my flame mercenaries class 5 magical beast and killing my high elder, you actually want to accuse me of crimes. I really misjudged you." Kai Er gag his mouth. "Jianshan, you're too arrogant. I am an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom. Treating me like this is challenging the authority of the Blue Wind Kingdom. In the future, there will be no place for you in the Blue Wind Kingdom." City Lord Yin Li's mouth was gagged. Hearing Jianshan's words, the people on the streets came to a sudden realization. I have long since heard that the Raging Flame mercenaries obtained the infant of a class 5 magical beast. Later on, it was stolen by a mysterious person at night, and one of their leaders was killed. I didn't think that it would be City Lord Yunli. Look, isn't that the cub in the cage a class 5 magical beast cub? So it was City Lord Yunli who stole it. Back then, the flame mercenaries caused a huge uproar while searching for the person who stole the class 5 magical beast. It's just that they didn't find a single clue after all that hard work. So that person was actually City Lord Yunli. No wonder he hid himself so deeply and didn't leave behind any clues. This is most likely a bunch of nonsense from the flame mercenaries. The truth of the matter is worth investigating. The people on the streets discussed spiritedly, each with their own opinions. Some believed that Jianshan was telling the truth and that the person who stole the class 5 magical beast cub and killed one of the founding members of the flame mercenaries was City Lord Yunli. Others believed that Jianshan was just finding a reasonable excuse to frame City Lord Yunli. But no matter what, no one dared to stop the group, because the news of the heaven-defying mercenaries disbanding had already spread throughout Wake City. With the disappearance of the heaven-defying mercenaries, the flame mercenaries had once again become the strongest power in Wake City. No one dared to provoke them. Moreover, on the Tianyuan continent, strength was everything. Strength represented everything. There was no reason to speak of. Reason only existed when both sides were similar in strength. By the time Jianshan and the others had brought City Lord Yunli back to the Kai clan, the news of his capture had already spread like wildfire throughout Wake City. There was no one who didn't know about it. To everyone, this news was no different from a heavy bomb, causing everyone to feel incomparably shocked. Although City Lord Yunli was only a small city lord of a 3rd-grade city, he was still an official of the Blue Wind Kingdom. If the flame mercenaries were to capture City Lord Yunli with such fanfare, it would be tantamount to challenging the authority of the Blue Wind Kingdom and making an enemy out of the entire kingdom. The Blue Wind Kingdom would definitely not stand idly by in order to protect their dignity and dignity. Within the Kai clan's courtyard, City Lord Yunli was kneeling on the ground, tied to a pillar. In front of him was a memorial tablet with the word Duokong written on it. Outside the Kai clan's gate, burly men constantly walked in and out. The members of the flame mercenaries who were out shopping had all received the news and immediately returned to the Kai clan. When they found out that City Lord Yunli was the one who had stolen the Type 5 cub and killed Duokong, their eyes were filled with anger. At this time, a series of footsteps could be heard from outside. Following that, a guard hurriedly ran in and shouted, "Leader, there's a large number of city guards rushing over here. There are a lot of them." Jianshan didn't care and waved his hand, saying, "It's fine, don't worry about them. Open the gate." The Kai clan's gate was wide open. Through the gate, one could clearly see groups of armored soldiers shuttling back and forth. There were at least 1,000 of them. After a while, the sound of footsteps finally quieted down. Everyone knew in their hearts that the entire Kai clan's courtyard was now surrounded by the city guards. At this time, a general came in with a group of soldiers. It was Commander Duo Li. Commander Duo Li glanced at City Lord Yin Li, who was tied to the pillar with an ugly expression before turning to Jianchen. He said with a heavy voice, "Jianchen, what is the meaning of this? Why are you treating the city lord like this?" Jianchen said emotionlessly, "City Lord Yin Li stole the cub of a Class 5 magical beast that belonged to my flame mercenaries and even killed the founding member of the flame mercenaries, Duokong. His crimes are unforgivable." City Lord Yin Li spat out the cotton in his mouth and loudly said in a righteous manner, "Duo Li, don't listen to Jianchen's nonsense. The flame mercenaries have ill intentions and want to rebel. If you want to accuse someone of a crime, you can always accuse them. They are trying to frame me on purpose." Seeing how serious City Lord Yunli was, people who didn't know the situation really would be fooled by him. "You still dare to quibble?" Kyle coldly snorted and kicked City Lord Yunli. Commander Duoli paused for a moment and said, "Jianchen, when my Wake City was facing the magical beast wave, you made a great contribution to protect the city. I, Duoli, have always admired you. However, City Lord Yunli is the City Lord of Wake City. No matter what, you can't treat him like this. Let him go first. As for whether or not City Lord Yunli killed anyone from your flame mercenaries, I will report it to my superiors, and they will uphold justice for you." Jianchen lightly shook his head and said, "There's no need to go through so much trouble. I, Jianchen, have no enmity with City Lord Yunli. Why would I frame him? Even if I did have enmity with him, I, Jianchen, would never do such a despicable thing. I have already made a decision in my heart. As for who the murderer is, there's no doubt about it. City Lord Yunli, my flame mercenaries will deal with him." Commander Duo Li's expression slightly changed. He cupped his hands towards Jianchen and said, "Jianchen, although I Duo Li respect you, but City Lord Yunli absolutely cannot be humiliated like this. Since you insist on doing this, then I, Duo Li, will have no choice but to offend you. My apologies." After saying that, Duo Li waved his hand and shouted, "Everyone charge! Save the city lord." With Duo Li's order, a large number of soldiers charged in from outside. At the same time, a large number of soldiers leapt over the walls of the Kai clan as well. They charged towards Jianchen's group like a flood. There were many of them. Ming Dong laughed aloud as a faint azure sword appeared in his hand. He said, "Come on, I'll let you experience the power of an Earth tier battle skill, Whirlwind." Surging wind-attributed Saint Force surged out of Ming Dong's body and quickly turned into a tornado that wreaked havoc in the surroundings. It pierced through the sky and caused the clouds in the sky to surge violently. The thick layer of clouds actually began to rapidly disperse. A violent gale suddenly swept through the courtyard of the Kai clan. The walls and the surroundings only lasted for a few seconds before collapsing. The large number of soldiers who charged towards Jianchen's group were thrown off balance by the tornado. They were unable to maintain their balance and could fall to the ground at any time. However, Jianchen's group, who were in the eye of the tornado, were not affected at all. Seeing the terrifying tornado, Commander Duo Li's expression drastically changed. He trembled as he said, "I Earth tier battle skill. I this power. You're an Earth Saint Master." Ming Dong roared out and suddenly swung his sword. The tornado in the surroundings rapidly expanded, and the violent wind actually swept a large number of soldiers into the air. They were unable to control their bodies at all. Seeing this, Commander Duo Li's face paled in fright. This was the first time he had seen the power of an Earth tier battle skill. Commander Duo Li used all his strength to stabilize his body as he constantly retreated. At the same time, he loudly ordered, "Everyone retreat! everyone retreat. Looking at the dozens of soldiers who had been sucked into the tornado, those soldiers who were moving slowly all stopped without waiting for Commander Duo Lee's order. They all retreated back as if they were fleeing for their lives. Their eyes were filled with fear. If they were sucked into the tornado and fell from a height of 100 meters, they would definitely die and their bones would be smashed into pieces. Chapter 553. A gigantic tornado pierced through the heavens and earth, straight into the clouds. It caused the winds and clouds to surge, allowing the millions of people in Wake City to see it. The fierce wind wreaked havoc between the heavens and earth, letting out sounds like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. It caused the entire Wake City to be covered in a gust of wind, causing the dust on the ground to fly into the air, covering the sky and covering the sun, causing the heavens and earth to appear dim. Once a heaven-tier battle skill was used, the enormous power it created was enough to cause the heavens and earth to change colors. Although an earth-tier battle skill was much weaker than a heaven-tier battle skill, when Mingdong used it with his strength as a 6th cycle Earth Saint Master, the power it created was still incomparably majestic. Just this scene alone was something that many people in Wake City would never be able to see in their entire lives. The appearance of a gigantic tornado in Wake City shook the entire city. The magnificent scene caused everyone's expression to change. They all revealed expressions of shock and fear. Some people were curious, while others were afraid. Everyone look. There are a lot of armored soldiers being tossed into the sky by the tornado. Suddenly, a person who saw this exclaimed. His face was filled with shock. Hearing this, the surrounding people all looked over. Indeed, they saw many soldiers being tossed into the sky by the tornado. They were constantly spinning, unable to fall back down. Am I seeing things? They're all Wake City's city guards. What's with this tornado? Why did it suddenly appear? And why is it still there? Battle skill, it must be a battle skill. Heavens, it must be a battle skill, and a high-tier one at that. I've heard that some high-tier battle skills once used have a heaven-shaking power. This scene in front of us fits that description perfectly. That's at least an Earth-tier battle skill. It might even be a legendary Heaven-tier battle skill. Since when did our Wake City have such an expert? Isn't that the Kai clan that the Flame Mercenaries have always occupied? I heard that the Flame Mercenaries had just captured the city lord. Right now, their experts must be fighting. I never thought that they would even use a battle skill. It must be very intense. Let's go watch the show. This is something that hasn't been seen in decades. If we miss it today, there won't be a next time. Let's go and take a look. It's very rare to see these experts fight. We can't miss it. The crowd on the street immediately surged, and a large number of mercenaries rushed to the location of the tornado, wanting to be the first to see the show. Inside the Kai family's courtyard, Commander Duo Lee and the surrounding soldiers had already retreated far away, each of them looking at the tornado in horror, their faces full of shock. On the other hand, Kyle, Breeze, Charles, and Mo Tian were all astonished by Mingdong's means. They had a higher opinion of Mingdong's strength in their hearts, and they looked at Mingdong with unconcealable admiration. After a while, Commander Duo Lee took a deep breath and did his best to calm himself down. He was secretly shocked. I never thought that the captain of the Flame Mercenaries would actually be able to rope in an Earth Saint Master after leaving for 2 years. With an Earth Saint Master overseeing the situation, no one in Wake City will be able to do anything to the Flame Mercenaries. It seems that with my strength, I won't be able to save the city lord. Commander Duo Lee hesitated for a moment before loudly saying, Jianqin, we can discuss this properly. I hope that you can show mercy and spare these soldiers. Jianqin looked at Mingdong and said, Mingdong, stop. Don't harm these people's lives for now. Mingdong nodded and slowly dispelled the Earth-tier battle skill. Jianqin used his mind to control the wind element in the surroundings, allowing the soldiers to slowly descend. Although the tornado did not harm the lives of the soldiers under Mingdong's purposeful control, it still made them dizzy. Commander Duo Lee, take your people and leave. It's best if you don't interfere with the city Lord's matters. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless." Jianqin indifferently said. Commander Duo Li's expression became extremely solemn. After hearing Jianqin's words, he did not say anything else. He cupped his hands at Jianqin and left with his soldiers. He understood that the Flame mercenaries had an Earth Saint Master expert who also knew an Earth tier battle skill. They were much stronger than normal Earth Saint Masters. With the strength of Wake City, it was impossible for them to do anything to the Flame mercenaries. Commander Duo Li left with over 1,000 soldiers with ashen faces. After returning to the city, Lord's estate, Commander Duo Li immediately went to his resting place. Taking out a pen, he quickly began to write. Finally, he rolled up the note he had written and tied it to the leg of a lightning bird. Then he directly threw the bird out. After the lightning bird took to the air, it immediately flapped its silver wings and flew off into the distance like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. The surrounding walls of the Kai family had all collapsed due to the tornado. Large numbers of mercenaries, merchants, and commoners had all gathered around to watch from afar. No one dared to take a step closer to the Kai family. As for the city lord of Wake City, he was still tied to a pillar and kneeling on the ground. In front of him was Duo Kang's memorial tablet. "Look, isn't that City Lord Yun Li tied to the pillar? I never thought that the Flame mercenaries would do such a thing to a city lord." A mercenary group actually kidnapped a city lord. This really is a strange story, but this also shows how powerful the Flame mercenaries are. Even the city lord's estate can't do anything to them. Aren't the Flame mercenaries afraid of the Blue Wind Kingdom's revenge? They may be powerful, but they still can't contend with the Blue Wind Kingdom. Maybe the Flame mercenaries have a powerful backer. They're not afraid of the Blue Wind Kingdom at all. More and more people gathered around the Kai family. More and more people came from all over Wake City to watch the show. But this time, the Kai family and the Flame mercenaries' reputation became even more resounding in Wake City. Even a city lord dared to be treated like this. In the Blue Wind Kingdom, this was indeed a very strange story. "Kyle, tomorrow's mission to the Magic Beast Mountain Range is temporarily cancelled. You guys will be responsible for guarding Yunli. Let him repent in front of Duo Kang's memorial tablet for 7 days. After 7 days, he will be executed. For these few days, no one is allowed to come near this place." Jianqin ordered. "Yes, Captain." Everyone responded in unison, their expressions extremely respectful. Jianqin's decision to execute City Lord Yun Li for Duo Kang's death had moved the hearts of all the members of the Flame mercenaries and won their heartfelt respect and admiration. 2 hours later, 1,000 miles away, in a first-class city called Sky Dragon City, the city lord of Sky Dragon City was reading a book in his study. At this time, a guard quietly walked in from outside and handed him a piece of paper before retreating. The city lord of Sky Dragon City opened the paper and began to read. After a moment, his face suddenly sank and he fiercely slapped the table and stood up. He angrily said, "Absurd, absurd, this is simply absurd. A small mercenary group actually dared to treat a city lord as a prisoner. This is absurd, absolutely absurd. Men immediately call Katata, Katafii, and Cloud Dragon over." Very quickly, Katata, Cloud Dragon, and Cloud Dragon arrived in the study. They were all around 40 years old middle-aged men. Katata cupped his hands and said, "City Lord, why did you call us brothers over in such a hurry? Is there something important? This is truly absurd. A small mercenary group actually dared to kidnap a city lord and treat him as a prisoner. They are simply looking down on the officials of the Blue Wind Kingdom. The 3 of you lead an army and immediately set off for Wake City." The city lord of Sky Dragon City said with an ugly expression. A small mercenary group daring to kidnap a city lord. This was absolutely intolerable. "Yes, city lord." The 3 of them answered in unison and then retreated. In the Kai clan's courtyard, Jianchen, Mingdong, and the others had already returned to their rooms to rest. The matters outside were completely left to Kyle and the other members of the Flame Mercenaries. Jianchen, no matter what, Yun Li is still a city lord. Are you really going to kill him? This is the Blue Wind Kingdom, not the Kingdom of Jessen, Tai Ta worriedly said. Although he knew that Jianchen was a Heaven Saint Master, this was still an enemy of the entire Blue Wind Kingdom. In Tai Ta's eyes, the Blue Wind Kingdom was an incomparably large organization. With the strength of his side, there was no way they could contend against it. Jianchen gently smiled and said, Tai Ta, I know what I'm doing. Your worries are completely unnecessary. The Blue Wind Kingdom is nothing to be afraid of. You just need to watch the situation develop. Big Black Guy, you're too timid. You're far too cowardly. All you need to do is watch from the side. Look at us. None of us are worried at all. So what are you worried about? You've only just come to the Tian Yuan continent. There's still a lot for you to learn, said Mingdong. Seeing everyone's confident faces, Tai Ta felt a lot more at ease. He said, all right then. I'll just watch from behind. I won't say anything. The next morning, outside of Wake City, a group of armored soldiers riding on magic beast mounts came running from afar. Commander Dolly, who had been waiting at the city gate for a long time, quickly ordered people to clear a path and then personally went up to the other side to negotiate. After a simple negotiation, the group of soldiers that had rushed over from the outside began to move once again. They quickly entered Wake City and headed straight for the Dare clan. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Kyle arrived at the door of Jianchen's room with a serious expression. He said, Captain, people from Sky Dragon City have come.